Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. This Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all very much for joining. We'll just give everybody about another minute to join. We sent out many, many links, so we'll just give about maybe another half a minute or so before we get started.
See a lot of friends here.
Yes. While we're waiting, if everyone can put, many have already, their name and where they're from, just so we can easier identify each other.
Yes, many devotees have already done that. Thank you for doing this. Just add your location, where you're based. That'd be great. So we can get started now. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyati Deshatarine Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauravaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you, dear devotees, for joining. My name is Madana-gopāla Das. I'm based in New Jersey and serving as co-director of ISKCON Communications for North America. So just get right into it. 2026 isn't just another year on our calendar. It's the 60th year of ISKCON's founding. 60 years since a lone Swami stepped off that ship, Jaladuta, carrying little more than faith, pair of kartals, and a mission to ignite spiritual revolution. In 6 decades, that seed has become a global movement. Temples on every continent, millions of hearts chanting the holy name, billions of literature distributed, countless people touched by prasadam and spiritual community. But here's the key point: media. Milestones are media moments. The world pays attention when a movement turns 60. Reporters, local leaders, even people who haven't thought about ISKCON since the Hare Krishna songs of the 70s, they'll all be curious again. This is our chance to retell that story, not as nostalgia, but as relevance. How ISKCON still feeds so many hungry people, how ISKCON builds communities, how ISKCON teaches mindfulness and spreads compassion and just touches people's hearts. So as communications devotees, we are the storytellers of this movement. And 2026, just around the corner, is our invitation to think big. Feature stories, local media, then and now, social campaigns, short videos, just make them yourself. And of course, my ISKCON story. So let's make ISKCON 60 not just a celebration of the past, but a declaration of the future. If Srila Prabhupada could change the world in one lifetime, imagine what we could do when we tell his story together with heart and creativity. So I'm going to introduce our other team members here. You already know our global minister for ISKCON Communications, His Grace Anuttama Prabhu, who also serves as the GBC for the Northeast Zone, and who also wears many other hats at the ISKCON global level. And of course, the key lead and coordinator of this event, my counterpart, the other co-director of ISKCON Communications North America, Kumari Kunti Devi. She's based in Canada. Sanatana Prabhu is based in Washington, D.C., which is the center of the political world and the whole world. Kumari is based in Canada, and I'm based here in New Jersey. And together, we are trying to serve this very important service in our humble way and we're seeking your help and participation. And we invite you to also get others excited about this very important seva of representing ISKCON and being our authentic selves to the world. Hare Krishna. I pass it on to Kumari.
Sorry for the delay, just setting up so I can do this more easily. Can everyone see? Oh no, I'm not sharing it. Let's try one more time. Share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So today, or is it, it's a little wonky what happened here. Like that. Try again. Continue to share. Everyone seeing the second page here? Welcome.
Yeah, we're seeing
your whole next slide and your
You're
whole
seeing
series.
the internal side. Okay, swap displays. Is that better?
There you go. Yeah, that's
there
okay.
we go.
Thanks so much. So today we're going to review some of the theory of communications. Anuttamaprabhu will lead us through 40 plus, 50 plus years of experience working with the medium, some tips, some interview prep, and then I'll look at some key messaging that you can take away. We'll do a break, just 15 minutes because we have a short session today. Typically, as we'll remind everyone, this is part of a 3-day course intensive. And so we're doing really the highest level to get you some introduction to the topic and ready in case of a need for the 2026 year. So after the break, we'll do some principles on being a spokesperson, and then we'll jump into an exercise. So this is a really key aspect. Please don't leave us for this. This is where you're going to probably learn the most. And we'll do a debrief where you can really share experiences, and we'll have some next steps. We have some exciting things we plan. Hopefully you can join us for that. So without any questions, I'll just start. We'll start with Anuttamaprabhu, who's doing the kind of the theory of media as a key audience for ISKCON.
All right, Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Kumari, maybe go back a slide. Just
Okay.
don't go there yet. I'm not ready for that one. But just first want to welcome everybody. I also want to welcome everybody and give special thanks to Madana-gopāla and Kumari Kunti, who are the main organizers of this event. Appreciate they're putting everything together. Thank you all for coming. And I noticed I don't see everybody down the side because I only see like the 6 handsomest and most beautiful people on my screen. But I do notice a lot of you, I'm only seeing your names. And I know you not only have a name, you also have a face and a body and a smile. And I would suggest that this is a media training course. This is not the time to be hiding in the background of your screen, nor a good time to be multitasking. Because if you try to do a media interview while you're thinking about your kids or your dog or your japa or this morning's news, you're not going to have a very powerful impact. So, and some of you may be finishing breakfast or driving back from dropping your kids off to Saturday hockey game or something, soccer. So please, as soon as you can, just join us, because it is important that we can see everybody as much as possible. We're going to be having some slides up, but in between, we're going to kind of go back and forth and want to take a look at everybody. And as Kumari mentioned briefly, what we're going to lead to is actually breaking you all into twos, into pairs. And the computer will do that, so we won't necessarily pair you with your spouse or your best friend or your worst enemy among the Vaishnavas. We know we have no enemies, but let's say there may be somebody out there like, oh God, like Radha Raman Prabhu of Chicago may be thinking, whatever you do, don't pair me with Anuttama. So if you get stuck with me, Radha Raman Prabhu, it's not because Kumari doesn't like you, it's just the way that the computer set everybody up. But we're going to go through some kind of background, how to do interviews, the mentality of ourselves as someone being interviewed, how to be most effective, and then we're going to practice it. So we're coming up to that. So please pay attention and be ready to try to apply as best you can. Of course, as Kumari mentioned, I mean, I've been doing interviews, for at least 40 years. Every single time I do, and I walk away thinking I could have done that better. And every time I walk away, I think about, okay, this is what I need to do better next time. So we don't expect anyone to be perfect, but we want us all to be at least some basic understanding of how to be effective and be a good representative of Prabhupada and our movement in our interactions with the media and with interviews. And having a basic understanding how we can learn to do better. We're also going to be doing some things where we're going to ask some questions to all of you. So we ask you to like put stuff, answers and things in chats in the chat box. So be ready to pop stuff into the chat box. So just to kind of get a start, please keep this in mind. The media is not your friend. I've had a lot of situations where I'll get a phone call from somebody that's like, they're so nice, I'd swear. Actually, we're still not there yet, Kamari. I'd swear that they're like my long lost best friend from high school. Because, they just want to give me a chance to tell people about Krishna, and so many people want to know what you're doing. And I myself, I've been to your place before. I've heard so many good things about it. So please, Ram Kishore Prabhu, please come and be on this TV program with us Saturday night. And Ram's just completely charmed by the whole thing. He says yes, and then he shows up, and he's there with like a suicide bomber, and like somebody else who used to be the head of a religious organization who's now in prison for 50 years for something. And next thing he realizes, gosh, maybe I shouldn't have been here. So a lot of it is trying to determine whether we want to participate or not. We're not going to get into that in too much detail now, but please understand the media is not your friend. Conversely, they're not your enemy. Some of us may think, the materialistic people and the media, and they're always just going for bad news and sensational news. They never give anybody a chance. Both those perceptions are equally wrong. The media is not your friend. They're not your enemy. They are a business. Okay? The media is a business. They have a job to do. Let's ask you, put in the chat box there. What do you think is what's the mission? Or what's the purpose of the media in general? We're going to talk about the media. Of course, there's lots of variety, and it's really not, you can't just put them in too broad of a box, but for the sake of discussion here today, what are some of what does it mean? What is the mission of the media? And you can open up your chat box and let's see what comes back with. Okay, ratings, viewership, creating TRP. Indra from Halifax. TRP. I'm sorry, I was born in 1950s. TRP. What does that mean? TRP. True responsible patronage? I don't think so. Can you unmute yourself? Sham Das, also Baltimore. TRP. I don't. I'm dating myself, Kamari.
Television rating point.
Television rating points. Okay, yeah, so with TV. Okay. Increase views, making money, drive public discourse, get advertising dollars. Yes, very important. They do not exist without advertising dollars. They need viewers, they need readers, they need sponsors, which again is connected to advertising. They want to bring attention to certain information. Sometimes they do have editorial policies. We want to really focus on the environment or focus on education or something like that. So they do that. Make money. Yes, Ram, that's what they're there. If they don't make money, what happens to them, Ram? They go out of business. Yes, disseminate information. Some are spreading rhetoric. They want to entertain more, public awareness, disseminate, increase viewers, advertise dollars, television rating points. Thank you for spelling it out. Get viewers. Nadia says tool. I don't know what she means by tool. Maybe you can unmute and tell us. They want to find out about your business. Yeah, they want to find out. Media is not so much just in finding out. They want to make sure that their readers or viewers find out. Communicate the mission. Ajay from Windsor. Which mission? Please unmute yourself. All of you should know when you came on, you got muted. Ajay Dasa from Windsor. Communicate the mission. Which mission?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was thinking more in terms of our congregation. I was thinking more of a local thing.
Yeah, kids, because this is important. We're going to get into that. Don't go into it thinking their job is to communicate what you want communicated.
Okay.
That's not their job. Their job is to entertain and inform their viewers, their listeners, their readers. And as many of you mentioned, to make money, it's a business. It's not a bad thing. Thank you, Indra Das, for putting in what TRP, the definition is. I just scrolled down to that. Jai Krishna from Phoenix said narrative. Does that mean in terms they want to control the narrative, you're saying, Prabhu? Or what do you mean, just the one word narrative?
Right.
Shamda, yeah.
Hare Krishna. It's absolutely, it's to the narrative to, I don't want to say segregate individuals, but to give give their side of the view.
Okay, yeah, everybody's prejudiced, no doubt about it. Us
Mhm.
too. So I would agree with that. Yeah. Even though they may try to be objective, and these days there's not so much as much objectivity as there had to be in the past. But yeah, they beware that they do definitely bring in their own experiences. I was on a program, any of you that were born in the 18th century, you may remember the TV show Larry King Live. I was on a program, Larry King Live, with 11 million viewers, which was a lot of people back in those days. And that's a whole conversation. But in the break, I leaned over. I thought, okay, Krishna, I need to know what I'm getting into here. I leaned over. I said, Larry, did you ever meet a Hare Krishna in an airport? He said, yes. And I thought, okay, this is like Armageddon, right? This is like do or die. And I asked him, how was the experience? Something like that, yeah, how was the experience? He said, it was okay. And I knew from then on, I'm not up against somebody with some bias against us from some past experience. So it's important. Okay, I'm gonna read one more. And Suniti wrote, maybe Jananivas wrote, the goal of media is to convert human attention into advertising revenue, maintaining a continuous state of emotional confusion. Oh, what a cynical view. Their preferred method being anxiety while preventing them from looking away or thinking too deeply about anything. Okay, thank you for stimulating some conversation here. I would say if that's our viewpoint, don't talk to the media. It won't be effective. The goal of media is to make money because they're a business. The goal of the media is to entertain people, inform people. Sometimes, as has been pointed out by a few of us, there is some bias there. But if we get into it with too cynical of a view, it's just like there's people out there asking, "What's the purpose of the Hare Krishnas? To brainwash people? What's the purpose of the Christians to dominate the world?" If we think like that, we'll get into it more. But if we think like that, it's gonna be really tough to do communications work. And I would fall at your feet and ask you, stay home and chant Hare Krishna because you'll be much more effective that way. But if we have like a more of an open view that we actually meant to impact people that may have biases, they do have prejudices, they do have ignorance on certain things, as we have biases, we have prejudices, we have ignorance on certain things, but we can learn to communicate and express what we're doing, what our mission is. So the media has their mission. We need to understand what our mission is, which is to spread Krishna consciousness, to share the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, and as we know, this principle, Yukta Vairagya. We're trying to use everything in Krishna's service. So how do we do an interview? How do we engage with the media? Even if we have a negative view of them or positive view or anything in between or cynical or happy or whatever, either way, we can engage with the media in a way that's going to be helpful to achieve our mission. That's the goal. And as we know, we should know, Srila Prabhupada, there's a whole presentation we talk about this, was really the greatest communicator of all. Prabhupada met government officials, interfaith officials, neighbors, academics, tons of media, lots and lots of media people. He spent a lot of his time doing that. So something that's there given by our founder, Acharya. Okay, Kamari, let's go to that first slide. Okay, so we're going to give some tips about understanding how the media works, basics of media relations, we call it. Then we're going to talk about specific tips on effective interviews and get into a little more analysis of how we can be effective. And then after this introduction, we're going to turn it over to Kamari. He's going to talk about what should our key messages be. Because if you're going to do interviews, as you'll see here, let me ask you a question. Anybody out, raise your hand if you've ever done Pujari service. Anybody out there done Pujari service? I can't see everybody. Kamari, how easy is it to go back and forth between screen sharing and seeing everybody? Is it a push of a quick button or is it like a long process? Like if we show everybody, can we do that for 5 seconds and go back to the screen so I'll know into the future?
Or
Kamari,
you can turn on the participants view so you can see the list of names and see who raised their hands. So we have quite a few hands raised right now.
Yeah, because sometimes it's nice if you can go back and forth between
There are
sharing.
about a dozen hands raised.
All right, it's good if we can go back and forth between not sharing the screen.
Actually, you know what? You can click back and forth where it says meeting. There's 2 buttons above, and you don't need to stop sharing the screen. Just look at meeting, and then you say Kumari Kunti's screen. Next to it is a button that says meeting, so you'll see everybody.
For me, but I want everybody to see everybody.
Yes, everybody can do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so if Kamari can turn off the screen once in a while. But the point is, okay, if you're Pujari, a lot of you raise your hands for doing Pujari service. So you all know you show up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you just let everything happen spontaneously, right? Maybe there's a dress for Krishna. Maybe there's flowers for Krishna. Maybe somebody made a garland for Krishna. Maybe somebody did an offering for Krishna. It's all spontaneous, right? There's no question of preparing, right? Duh. Of course, you have to prepare if you're going to do deity worship. If you're going to give a Sunday feast lecture, hopefully you've done a little bit of preparation ahead of time. Sometimes maybe you're asked at the last minute, but generally you need to prepare. If you're going to file the income tax report or the government report, and your deadline is midnight, you start around 2 minutes to 12 and you just push a button to send it in, right? No, you have to prepare. So the same way we need to prepare if we're going to be effective doing kind of media interviews. So first thing, it's actually in a later slide, but I want to inject this here. You need to know the audience, okay? And you can take some notes, and we're going to send you these slides, and we're also going to send you some additional background information, but also I would recommend you take some notes as we go through. You need to know the audience. First question, you're going to appear on such and such a program, such and such an interview. If they stick a microphone in front of you on the street, you should ask them, who are you with? Are you with the news program, this, that? You need to know who's the viewers. You need to know who's the listeners, who's the audience, who's out there that's going to be, you're going to be interacting with, because we'll explain why you need to know that in a second. Okay, who's the audience? So then you need to know the medias or that reporters and the people who are listening. What are their needs, interest, and concerns? We call this the Maha Mantra for communicators. What are their needs, interests, and concerns? You, as a devotee preparing to speak to the public through the media, you need to have an understanding of what are the needs, interests, concerns of that channel. You know, like if you're speaking to somebody, just to give an obvious example, you're speaking with somebody from Vogue magazine. Somehow they want to interview the Hare Krishnas because they think your fashion's cool. You're going to talk about fashion. If you get interviewed by, Sports Illustrated, you better talk about, Krishna's sporting activities, jumping off mountaintops and things like that. If you're going to talk to a news station from downtown Tucson, you're going to talk about what's happening with Tucson. You need to understand what are their priorities. First thing, who's the audience? What are they interested in? Okay. Second point, you got to think win-win when you're at any communications, but it's here we're talking about working with the media. Any kind of relationship has got to be two-way. How is it beneficial for them? And how is it also going to be beneficial for us? If you get into a media interview, and we're going to talk more about that, it's essential to be thinking win-win. Keep in mind, media people, they're people, they have a job to do, and they're busy. Okay, they're not there just because, they may come out and do an interview with Ram Kishore Prabhu about Janmashtami at, 9 o'clock in the morning. They're going to do 3 more interviews that day. They might have done 500 interviews, and they might know a lot about Hare Krishna or nothing about Hare Krishna. Just understand they're individuals, treat them like individuals. They're people, first and foremost. They're busy, and they've got a job to do, okay? Next one flows from that. Don't take anything personally. Sometimes you have an interview and the person's aggressive. That's part of the job of a reporter. In a few minutes, we're going to practice, and you're all going to practice being reporters. So you get to take out all of your aggressive and your anxiety and some of those things you all put in the chat there. You're going to really be able to go to it. As an individual, you may come to a certain interview as the reporter with a lot of knowledge or no knowledge. Maybe you met one Hare Krishna, they were the nicest person you ever met. Or maybe you met a Hare Krishna, they were the meanest person you ever met. They're going to bring that to it. You're starting fresh. Don't take anything personally, okay? Next one, rehearse what you're going to say. Don't think, okay, I'm a devotee of Krishna. He's God. He'll tell me what to say. Well, maybe you're not that connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead where he's going to dictate every word out of your mouth. Better that you practice. Like everything else we do needs practice. Any musicians here, you all know you got to practice, 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 okay? All right, next slide. So let's get into some of the basics of media relations continued here. Everything, okay, these are getting into some finer tuned things. Everything you say with the media is on the record. Okay? Sometimes things will happen. You say you're on like a TV interview and they shut off the camera. You think. And then they start asking you more questions. Like they say, Madana-gopāla Prabhu, people, Madana-gopāla, thanks for being on the show. Really like to have you. What do you really think about, this guy in Newton, Washington, D.C., isn't he kind of a little too old for that job? I mean, wouldn't it be better if you had that role? What do you really think? And Madana-gopāla says, well, yeah, the guy's suffering from dementia. And, I mean, really the one that does all the work around the house is his wife. I think he's totally spaced out. That becomes the story. Okay, because the media, they got a job to do. They're looking for news. They're looking for something interesting. So be aware, whatever you do is on the record. Okay, everything you say is on the record. Sometimes they even say off the record. Whenever they say off the record, ignore it. That's just part of their job. They're trying to find something interesting. Don't take it personally, but that's just part of the job. But you have to know there's nothing that's not on the record. I had an interview with the editorial staff of the Houston Chronicle years ago, came to the building, got in an elevator, was riding up to like whatever, the 15th floor. A bunch of guys with white shirts and ties got on at floor 2, rode up to the same floor where I was. I got out, went to the right, they went to the left. 10 minutes later, after I got through the secretary, I'm meeting the same guys I rode up the elevator with. So what if on my way up the elevator, I'm saying to the devotees with me, this paper is kind of like old-fashioned. I heard they're not doing very well, etc., whatever. Okay, or I just do something else that's inappropriate for Vaishnava in the elevator, whatever it is. They notice those things. So everything you say is on the record. And as they say, you're on from the minute you enter, until you're off the parking lot. Consider the fact that whatever you do, whatever you say is being noticed by the media. Okay, next one. Can everybody turn off your chat? Turn off your mute for a second. Everybody become unmuted. Okay, I'm going to say something and you're going to repeat after me. Okay, so the second line there, never lie or mislead the media. Can you all say that out loud, please?
Never lie or mislead the media.
Okay, we need to go back one, Kumari. Okay, let's do it 3 times. Prabhupada says in the Gita, you can repeat important things. Never lie
or mislead the media.
Mislead the media.
Never lie or mislead the media.
Never lie or mislead the media.
Never lie or mislead the media. Okay, who can say why? Somebody just, Mohan Leela, who happened to be in my screen, ISKCON someplace. Why? Why never lie or mislead the media?
They will figure out the facts and then make that a story.
Very good. Very good. If they don't figure it out today, they'll figure it out next week, next month, and you will make an enemy and they won't appreciate it. Very good. Also, they work on facts. They work on facts. And if you tell them, hey, please come to our event, we're expecting 10,000 people, it's going to be ecstatic, and 500 show up, well, you just misled them. And, they planned a story, whatever, say it's a newspaper, they're going to give you 25 inches of stuff, and they show up, it's not as big an event as they thought. Okay, now they got to scurry around and figure something else out. You misled them, you just made an enemy. Or at least you just discouraged them, okay? All right, next one. Know your 3 main messages. We're going to talk about this a lot. When you do a media interview, you need to have planned ahead of time. What are the 3 main points you want to get across? Based on your understanding of who's the audience, what are their needs, interests, and concerns? What are they interested in? What's important to them? Based on that, you come up with your 3 main messages. Madana-gopāla, we're going to get into more detail, but you got a quick one on this? I see your hands up.
No, I can wait for the question and answer. I just was talking about the never lie and mislead the media. That could be the opposite for the media people, right? They can lie and mislead the society.
Well, it's not our responsibility to account for everybody else. We know that, we took vows for truthfulness, right? We took a vow. We have 4 pillars. We don't know what pillars they uphold. And we don't really care. But for ourselves, we have to be truthful. Yeah. Okay, next one. I added this in last night, actually. It's a long-standing course I've been teaching. Don't be too preachy. Devotees sometimes, we did a professional training years ago with some company. They explained to us, they said, the biggest problem with all you, they were really impressed with the devotees that got spokesperson training. They said, your biggest problem, you're too philosophical. They said, you're talking way over people. They said, the typical viewer or reader, it's a guy at home on the couch drinking a beer. And you guys are talking about, the difference between Madhvacharya's interpretation and Shankaracharya. It doesn't go. You just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Be friendly and be informative. And don't be too preachy, We all know how obnoxious it is. You run into some like a religious, immature person on the street, right? We love sincere Christians and Muslims and Jews and Baha'is and everybody else. We can have some kind of relation. When you meet like an immature person that thinks they have the whole truth, nothing but the truth, our way, the truth and the life, it's a little one-sided conversation. So don't be like that. Be informative, be friendly, be humble. Okay, next one, very important. Don't be discouraged by a critical story or a negative story. Build long-term relationships. Sometimes you reach out to a media person, you put a lot of energy into it, they come to the temple, you think they're going to write a nice story. But let me go back to asking Jivan Das Prabhu. Can't tell what part of the world you're in. What do you think? Like, if that reporter comes out and interviews you and they walk away with a really good impression, does that reporter have total control over what comes out in the TV or the online or whatever? Are they the controller?
No, absolutely not.
They got bosses, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, somebody else writes the headline. Somebody else, does the editing. Somebody else, does the video editing.
Hmm.
So like Jivan Purvo said, they may be great, but you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So don't be discouraged if it's a critical story. It's a long-term relationship. Some of the best relationships I ever had with reporters, I can honestly say, started out with a very negative story. It's too long to tell the story here, but it happens regularly. We have to be like a little resilient and humble. And if somebody writes a negative story, I'll give an example. In France, just within the last couple of weeks, Le Monde, which is the biggest newspaper in Paris, and the local paper outside of the what is it called? The farm in France, New Mayapur. They had French people who are not famous for their love of religion, going back to the French Revolution when they got an issue with the church. They wrote very, very positive articles, like different from what they've done the previous 30 years. Now, if you take it personally and you get discouraged and you don't talk to them anymore, you're not going to be able to turn that relationship around. Okay. Those of you that are married, sometimes you come home and your spouse is not in a great mood. It doesn't mean it's the end of the relationship. Sometimes you may do something wrong, which they're not very happy with. Doesn't mean they're going to throw you out or they should throw you out. It's a relationship. It's long term. You have to work on it. So same thing with the media. Okay. Next slide, please. And we are going to have time for question and answers. So if you have questions, please write those down. Okay, some specific, let's see. Kumar, there was another slide about review and practice, know your 3 points. Maybe that didn't get in here.
That's in the interview prep, yeah? Next section.
Yeah. We have that? Nope. Okay. All right, let's do this because we put our slides together. I sent her some last night.
It's right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, great. There's Srila Prabhupada being interviewed by a reporter. Notice he has a smile. That's coming up in a minute. It's coming up. So interview preparation trips. What do I do to do a good interview? First of all, you got to review the information we're talking about now. Be humble. Understand that you need to practice. And practice. Okay? We're going to do a little practicing now in a few minutes after the break. These days, everybody's, just turn on your phone, record yourself. Make a list of questions and ask yourself some of those questions and then record it. Play it back and see how you sound. Turn on your phone and just, your camera and film yourself. Sit down with your friend or your fellow brahmachari in the ashram or your spouse or your teenage kid or something. Let them interview you and then see how it goes. So if Mohan Leela Prabhu, sorry to pick on you, but I'm seeing the same people on my screen. I go to interview Mohan Leela Prabhu and I ask him a question like, well, Mohan Leela, I really appreciate your explaining to us about the importance of spiritual authorities. How many of your gurus have given up their vows? And he goes, that's not a very good interview. Okay. So you got to prepare. We'll talk about it later. Sometimes that also includes making a list of what you think might be the toughest questions. Okay. Like, I know Ramachari Prabhu was here in St. Louis. So maybe he does an interview about the new building that they purchased, which is an exciting step forward. Be prepared for them to ask, where'd the money come from? And well, with all the people that are hungry in St. Louis, do you really think that religious organizations today should spend whatever X million of dollars to buy a new building. Shouldn't you be feeding the poor people? And again, if you go, it's not going to be a very good interview. So you got to review, you got to practice, and you have to anticipate, okay? So it's here I mentioned in the beginning because I wanted to draw attention to. Know your audience, extremely important. Most interviews, you're going to know so-and-so shows up at the temple or at your festival or something like that. You have an idea of who they are. Somebody comes up and tells you, I'm with the such and such show. Can we do a quick interview? You have every right to say, do you mind if I ask you a little bit more about your program? Yeah, well, it's such and such. It's a talk show and it's on 11 o'clock Friday night. Okay, 11 o'clock Friday night, you got a sense of who's going to be listening to it. Or if it's a podcast and they're going to, put it on their thing, well, what's your focus? You can ask them a few questions. You don't interrogate them, but you need to know who's the audience and you're going to adjust your comments accordingly. Okay. Again, know your three main points. We talked about that above. Convey them early. We're talking about developing those 3 points. Practically, the first question, you should get one of your main points across. I remember one of the first radio interviews I did, and I'm not making this up. It's just Krishna arranged me to be a fool so I could share it with all of you. There was a radio show, and I wanted to tell them about our Food for Life program and the temple and this and that. And the first question, the guy asked me, what are you dressed like that for? So I told him about the way we were dressed. And then he asked me another question, completely different when I want to talk about it. And then he wanted a break. And then he came back and took some viewers, and they asked a couple questions, completely different one to talk about. And then he said, "Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here." And I was like, but I didn't get to talk about what I wanted to talk about. So convey it early. Know your three main points. Be ready to convey those points early. We're going to read something a little bit later about how you're always in control of the answers. Whatever the question is, you're in control of the answers, which takes us to possibly the most important point of all. Be ready to turn questions. Okay. Again, we're going to send these to you later. If you're taking notes, highlight this. This is the essential aspect of an effective media interview, which is, in short, turning questions. That means whatever you get asked, you are going to make your point. You know what your three main points are. So let's say, for example, Madana-gopāla is a journalist, and he's going to ask me, Madana-gopāla, can you unmute?
Sure.
Okay, good. Let's say I want to talk about the authenticity of Krishna consciousness. I want to talk about our food relief in Washington, whatever, we're feeding 1,000 meals a month. And my third point, I want to talk about Janmashtami coming up. Okay, or I want to talk about the 60th anniversary coming up. So Madana-gopāla was going to ask me like the eternal question of thoughtful journalists, which everyone 9 times out of 10, they're going to ask you. Madana-gopāla, go for it. What are those marks on your forehead? You're going to ask me twice, and I'll do 2 different versions. Okay.
Yeah, so what is the deal with these marks on your forehead, and why do you shave your heads?
Yeah, it's called tilak. And this shows that we're devotees of Krishna. Okay.
Thank you. What's the deal with the dome on your?
Okay, hold on a second. So did I answer their question?
Yes.
I answered the question, right? Did I give the journalist a lot of exciting, interesting news to go on? Did I help them, right? We talked about win-win. Did I help them at all? Balakrishna Das from Edmonton says, no, thank you. I didn't, okay? So there's a way to answer that same question, which is called turning the questions. Like if if you go in a straight row and you turn, right? Turning the question, turning the car, turning the whatever, turning the bobsled going down the hill. I'm turning. So when they ask me the same question, I can answer the question, but get 1 or 2 or 3 of my points across. So Madana-gopāla, go ahead and answer the same question.
So what are these forehead lines that you have, the marks?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. This is called tilak. It's actually made from clay from one of the sacred rivers in India. Our tradition, the Vaishnava tradition, actually is based on the teachings that go back in India over 5,000 years ago. So it's a very, very authentic tradition. So this particular mark demonstrates that our body is a temple of God, and we should use everything in the service of God. Did I answer the question? And what else did I do?
Conveyed some key points that you wanted to convey.
Key points. I got at least one in there about authenticity. I want them to know we are authentic. So I went from clay in the forward to authenticity. Okay. Now here's what not to do. Okay. Madana-gopāla, ask me one more time.
What is that mark on your forehead and your nose?
We're a very authentic tradition. It goes back thousands of years in India, based on the sacred traditions of the Vedic literature. Okay. What's that called?
Yeah.
What I just did there, everybody.
Dodging the question.
Dodge the question. I evaded the questions. It looks like either I'm crazy or brainwashed or stupid or I'm hiding something, right? So turning the question doesn't mean not answering the question. Turning the questions means you answer their question and then you give out more information, what you want to get across. Now, here's what's really mystical about the whole process. You're getting done what you need to do. You're also helping the reporter. Because when I say to Madana-gopāla Prabhu, who's taking the role of reporter, when I say what's an ancient tradition, it goes back so many years in the Ganges River and all this, he's got like a million other things. Sorry, hit my computer. He's got a million other things now he can ask me about. If he just says, what's it called? I say it's called T-lock. He's got to go on to his next question. Like hopefully he's got a list there because he's in trouble because I didn't help him. So win-win, I'm giving him useful I'm getting my message out. At the same time, I'm giving him more interesting stuff for his interview. Okay? Very important. We're going to practice this a couple of minutes. Oh, let's take a question. Sadashiva Prabhu from California.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dhamma Pranam. I had a question on the way you answered and you suggested the approach to answer that. So typically when you answer something like that, is the intent to lead the interview in the direction that you want?
The intention is to answer. The intention is you ahead of time know that, okay, I'm going to talk to I'm on a program that's going to reach, business people in Southern California. So what are the most important things I want to get across to them? So the intention is to get my message across in the interview. I'm going to help them make it an interesting interview, but that's their job. Their job is to make it interesting. My job is to get my points across.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not taking control of the interview at all. I'm not fighting with them. What just reminds me, like you never want to say something like if they say, well, why do you believe this? And you turn around and say, well, why don't you believe it? I mean, no, they're the interviewer, they're the reporter. Let them ask the questions. Be friendly, like we said. Don't think you're supposed to take charge of it. That's just obnoxious, and maybe you'll get a little sense of thrill because you have so much power, but they'll never call you back again because they know, sophisticated American term, you've just proved to them you're a jerk. And they're not in the business of talking to jerks. They're looking for interesting, engaging people. Mohan Leelapur, one more question, then we'll go on.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'll repeat what I understood and correct me if I'm wrong, right? So when we answer the question, the main idea is to think about the viewership and the kind of message we are conveying to the viewers rather than trying to navigate through the questions that are going to come out. While we're answering the question of the reporter, we are still trying to think, okay, these are the viewers and this is the message I want to convey to the viewers. Is that right?
Yes, and you've got that all figured out way ahead of time.
Mm.
It's not like halfway through the interview, you start thinking about what are my messages. And remember we said you have to prepare, right? You have to review, you have to practice. So way ahead of time, you do some, these days it's so easy to do research, you just find out, I never heard of this newspaper. Where are they? Well, they're in this such and such a valley. They've got a, readership of $180,000. They're medium Pearson, they're Latino or they're white or they're educated, less educated, whatever. And you get a sense of what their interests are. A certain reporter wants to interview you. You do a little bit of research and you find out that she's really into the environment. So you're going to work in some of your, some of your messages can be about how you do environmental stuff like that. So, I mean, Krishna's, we have this like unbelievably fortunate mission. We're representing the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything, everything is there. You don't lie or exaggerate things, but there's so many positive things that we have to say about our movement, about our tradition, about Krishna. So wherever they're coming from, we can present that angle of Krishna consciousness. But keeping in mind what you want to achieve.
And just a point that's important to add here is we have to read the news and be aware of the media to have a little bit of context as well. So we do recommend devotees doing this service to be aware of the news. You know, I live in Toronto. We were doing a live kirtan event for the Bangladesh situation, and CBC came. Vrinda Devi, or I think Bhakti Mark Swami was there, and I navigated them to Bhakti Mark Swami and myself, but I knew what CBC was as a news agency already going in. I didn't have time to Google at that exact moment who they were. It's a very general, more neutral. I mean, Canadians are very neutral than America, let's just say that. So we knew it was a neutral audience, and we could give some general talking points that we wanted to convey in the 2 minutes they give us. So just, there is some awareness you need to be of news agencies out in the world as well.
Very important point for those of us that are going to be interacting with the public and doing interviews. Yeah, there's a lot of stories about that. People, devotees in the past that didn't have so much information and were less effective. You don't have to be aware of everything, but you know, yeah, it's true in anything. I just mentioned this. If you're working with the government, if you're going to talk to a government representative, you darn well better know what party they belong to. And you need to do a little bit of research. What are their issues? You know, are they into the environment and the education? Are they into lowering taxes, raising taxes? You know, again, you look for things where there's win-win, where there's interest. If you're going to talk to the neighbors, you want to find out what are their needs, interests, and concerns. And it's different for different people. And we have a tendency to think in terms of what's important for me, right? Maybe we'll do a little skit about that later, but keep in mind primarily who's the audience. Know your 3 main points ahead of time, okay? Are ready to turn questions? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, when you are being interviewed, especially true when you're doing something visual, okay, with a TV show or podcast or something like that. Always maintain a positive, friendly demeanor. Doesn't matter if it's radio or whatever, but maintain a positive, friendly demeanor. You've probably all seen that pie chart's been around for years, you know, something like 55% of the impact or what you communicate is by body language, and 35 some percentage is by the words, and only 7, or the tone and the way that you deliver. Only like 7%, something like that, is on the basis of what you say. So again, devotees, we tend to think we're philosophers. You know, they're going to be blown away by the depth of the number of verses we're going to quote from Bhagavad Gita. They might not even notice that, but they're going to notice you're a nice person. You know, I'll give another example. Kamari asked me a question about why am I personally so involved in Krishna consciousness? You be the journalist.
Hi, Anuttama Das. What brought you to Krishna consciousness? Why are you the spokesperson? Why did you take that role?
Okay, now everybody noticed the difference, my content and what I'm expressing maybe through my body language, okay? So she asked me, you know, why are you devotee and all that? Krishna consciousness is a very blissful lifestyle. And I want to share that ecstasy with as many people as possible. That's why I'm out here chanting and singing today. It's why we put on this festival, because we're experiencing so much happiness. We just can barely control it ourselves. Okay? How effective was the words I said? Anybody convinced? Jiva and Dash, you want to join our movement? You want to write a nice story about us? You want to come to the temple festival? No way. So be aware of your body language, okay? So maintain a positive, friendly demeanor. Yeah, there's no enthusiasm. Paul, thank you for commenting about that. You look depressed. Yeah. And therefore, everybody wants to join us, right? Be aware your body language. So therefore, it says, especially video. Smile, smile, smile. Practice this. Go home and smile. Okay? Radharaman Prabhu. Somehow you popped up on my screen. Let me see you smile. Smile, Prabhu. Go for it. Give us a big smile. We know you can do it. Show some teeth. Radharaman Prabhu from Chicago. Yeah. Do it. You're on an interview. Oh, you got to practice more. Okay. So everybody looks, I can see Madana-gopāla. He's right on my screen. Nice, friendly smile. Kamari's got a friendly smile. Jivan Das, I'm like ready to join whatever movement he belongs to. Mohan Leela. Body language is important. Now, in the rare instance they ask you some uncomfortable, untrue, or unpleasant question, you know, about It could be something very serious about, there was a fire and at the temple and somebody got hurt. Obviously, you don't smile then. But others, when it's a generic kind of interview, look friendly, look happy. We are friendly, and we're devotees. We're supposed to be happy. And if we don't feel some bit of happiness, we should go stay home and practice the process more. Don't go in front of a camera. Don't meet reporters. You're not the person we need you to be out there. Those just going out there, smile, okay? Avoid no comment. Kamari, okay, it's my turn to interview you, okay? You answer no comment, whatever I say, all right? You ready?
Ready.
Okay. So, Kamari, do you have any idea what happened to all the sweets that disappeared from the Mahaprasadam locker last night?
No comment. No comment.
Do you have any explanation of why you were seen walking down late hours in the temple around midnight towards the Maha sweet container locker?
I plead the fifth.
No comment.
No
Just say
comment.
no comment. Okay. Can you explain to us why the video camera shows you standing over the Maha locker at 1 o'clock in the morning?
No comment.
Okay, how about, can you explain to us all those ants going into the Brahmachari ashram where you've been living?
No comment.
Okay, everybody, we got it. She's guilty as charged, right? Don't say no comment. No comment means, oh, I like those side effects. Those are great. No comment means you're like, guilty, okay? So don't say no comment. If you don't know the answer, say, I don't know the answer to that. Let me get back to you. And then get back to them, okay? And don't say no comment. Never, ever, ever say no comment. Be prepared. Anticipate what are some of the difficult questions you may be asked, and answer the best you can. And if you don't know, tell me you don't know. Okay, there's no such thing as off the record. I think we talked about this before. That was in the list up above, being aware that they're there. Okay. So I have let's see. I want to take a little bit of background from a section you're going to get later. I didn't put this in the slides, but I want to review some points. You can just maybe take some notes on this. This is going to be into something we'll send you later, a list called Keys to Successful Interviews. And Lala, I see your hand. I'm going to come back to you in just a minute, okay? Be helpful to reporters. They've come for a story. Help them define it. Somebody says, well, I've come to do a story about the 60th anniversary. Give them some thoughts about why it's interesting. Come right in. I don't think I sent this on the slide, so you can just leave it on that one. It's okay. Help them define the story. Tell them interesting things about, we've been here for so many years. We're doing all these different positive things. Help them understand why it's newsworthy for them to do a story, okay? The reporter will come with their agenda. You need to have yours planned ahead of time. Who can say, what's your agenda? I gave it away a few minutes ago. What is your agenda? Anybody you can. Let's see. Balkrishna Prabhu raised his hand. You can unmute Bal Prabhu from Edmonton. What's your agenda? Oops, you're still muted.
Sorry, bro. Did I raise my hand? I don't.
Oh, sorry. I thought you raised your hand.
Loud.
I'm just gonna pick on some. I scrolled down. Kartik Rajir Prabhu from ISKCON someplace. I can't see the full screen. What's your agenda?
I think the agenda is to convey the 3 points.
Yay! That's fantastic. If we were like in a room with a roller, I'd have you stand up and we can do. Everybody applaud. That was a fantastic answer. That's exactly what your agenda is. It's not to look good because your mom's at home watching. It's not to, get a job part-time. You can do that somewhere else. It's to get your 3 points across. Agenda, we all know. If there's an agenda for a meeting, do you figure it out after the meeting starts? If there's an agenda for a board, do you start? No. Agenda means you got to plan ahead of time. So we all need to plan ahead of time. What are our 3 main points? And that's your agenda. Get those across. Great. Thank you. Okay, before the interview, do what it takes to put yourself in a calm, purposeful state. Okay, you want to pray, I always find prayer helpful. Krishna, this is an opportunity for you to use me to get your message across to the 3 people that are going to listen to this podcast, or the 30 million people out there that are going to tune into the news tonight. Please, Krishna, you use me as your instrument. It's a great way to make yourself calm. Okay? We talked about turning the questions. That's, again, listed in this list you're going to be getting. Speak with energy and vocal variety. You'll notice that little demonstration I gave, this just being so low key, you put everybody to sleep. So energize yourself, okay? Take your time while answering. Sometimes we tend to think we have to blurt out something in a hurry without thinking at all, without using pauses. You don't have to speak. It's their job to manage the time. You can take your time to answer questions, okay? It doesn't mean you have a 15-second pause, but take your time in answering questions. And one more from this list that again we're going to send out later. Don't nod your head affirmatively. Madana-gopāla, why don't you asked me a few questions here. Tell me about we'll start out the question and then turn into something really negative, okay? And I'll just take off your mute if you could, everybody can just watch. So he's just asked me about chanting and I gave him a nice answer. You're still muted, Mike. Yeah. He asked me about chanting and I said, yeah, we chant and dinner's, prasada, our food's really good. And then go for your other question, Madana-gopāla.
And do you think this chanting can be detrimental to the mental health of the practitioners? And do you
No,
think...
not at all. See, I'm nodding my head because he's a reporter. He's got a job to do. He's trying to interview people. So sometimes he'll ask like a whole series of really nice questions. Like Radha Raman Prabhu, that's such a beautiful name you have. Yes, it is. And you've lived in Chicago for 15 years. You must like it here. Yes, I do. And you've been a devotee of Krishna, so you must really like the tradition. Yes, I do. And you people rip off people in the airports, right? No. See, they're just looking for a story. Don't take it personally. It's just their job. And we have to be aware that, body language sends a message. So it's an important tip, obviously, especially for the visual stuff. And a couple more things I wanted to highlight, and then we're going to go back, ask you all some questions, and then we're going to go over to Kumari and back to Kumari Madana-gopāla. Okay, a couple things about visual media. Okay, very important. Sitting straight. Everybody at home, all of you out there in Zoom land, sit straight. Sit straight means, and I don't know much you can, okay, it's kind of hard. Like it does, like if you sit like this, obviously, I'm exaggerating if you sit like this, there's something about television. If I sit like this, it looks like this. Okay, it just is. If I sit kind of comfortably, what might be comfortable, it looks really sloppy. So this may seem unimportant, but it's actually very important. When you're doing, again, we're going to talk right now about TV, visual, podcasts, whether, viewing. You want to sit near the front edge of your seat and you want to sit very straight with your shoulders back, very erect, okay? Your posture needs to be like this. Two main reasons. One, because it just looks so much better, as I mentioned, but also it keeps you ready to answer questions. You're kind of on the, as they say, you're on the edge of your seat. It's an expression. You're energized. You're breathing properly. You're attentive. So very, very important. If you find yourself during an interview where you're kind of starting to slouch again, just sit up again. It's very, very important. Sit on the edge of the seat, feet planted, and don't allow yourself to be too comfortable because it doesn't look good and you're not going to be as effective. All of us need to practice this anyway. We're communicating a message. Catch yourself. You want to avoid non-words. U, just avoid those. So for instance, I'll give an example. So let's say they asked me about the work that Prabhupada's done. Well, Srila Prabhupada, he crossed the ocean and he was really a pretty amazing person that did a lot of good things to change people's lives. Boring, really bad. So we just need to practice. Everybody tends to use these filler words. Pauses. Sometimes you think, oh my gosh, what do I do? Just pause. So watch the difference. I'll say basically the same thing. Srila Prabhupada was a very important historical person. He changed a lot of lives and made people's lives better. Just by using some pause. Just Catch yourself, practice again, practice. No non-words. TV's fast moving, especially these days they edit stuff like crazy, but you don't want to give a Bhagavatam class. You know, what are the contributions that the Krishna conscious movement is making to society? You don't want to give like, 30 seconds. They say generally 7 to 10 seconds when you answer a question. You can always, hopefully they'll be asking more questions, but otherwise they're going to edit it anyway. And they may be probably going to find some that is not what you necessarily wanted to deliver. You can't depend upon them. So keep your comments short. And the last one I'll just mention from this list, and there's a longer list that you're all going to look at later, but avoid jargon. What's jargon? Let me pick on somebody new here. Let's go to, let's say, Lalita Priya in Tucson. That's a wild background you have there. It's like the northern lights in the middle of the day. Amazing.
That's our patio here at the temple.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Lalita Priya, give me like 5 good examples of Hare Krishna jargon, or at least 3.
Oh, bloop.
Bloop, good one.
We say far out sometimes.
Far out. Okay. Okay.
I know there's many more that I use in everyday life, and I can't think of them right now.
Well, let's give an example. Let's say a reporter asks me, what's your life like in the Hare Krishna movement? Well, we get up at Mangal Artik during we get up during Brahma Muhurta hours. We have Mangal Artik, followed by Tulsi Puja. Then we chant 16 sweet ones, and then we have Bhagavatam, Katha, and then we honor Prasadam, and we go on Sankirtan, and come home and read Krishna book and hot milk. And the reporter says, I got the hot milk part. Can you explain the rest of it to me? Okay. Be careful of the jargon. We hang out with devotees a lot. I mean, those of you that work in the technical fields, you use so much jargon. Every field has got its jargon. Devotees have their jargon. We have a wonderful Sunday vegetarian free feast. Okay. People get vegetarian free feast, free meal, free dinner, free something. But, prasadam, Krishna Prasad is like, they don't know what that means. Don't assume it's their job to understand all of our terms. It's your job to explain those terms to them. That's what it really boils down to. Okay. So let's I got a couple questions for you, and then we're going to turn over to Kumari. Kumari, you want to go to the, okay, yeah, actually it was the one before. It was the one before on the bottom of that screen. Okay. We're going to ask you all, put this in the chat. What does the media need? What are the media's needs? Okay, let's get a little interactiveness here. Content, good. A story. Turn over my screen, I can see this. They want to entertain and inform. They need an exciting story. They need hooks. We'll talk about that in a second. Good story, story message. Entertaining, something interesting. Okay, what else? You're all going down the same rabbit hole. What else did you see? You're all saying the same thing. What else? You are a reporter. Pause for a second. You are a reporter. Okay. What do you need? You need facts. You need some event, something fun, perhaps. Good. What else do you need? Content that matters to my agenda, my audience. Very good, Jai Keshav Prabhu. You want to be the first one, Kartik Prabhu. Good. It doesn't always happen, but boy, would you love to be the first one to report on something that's just happened. You want something, Ram Kishore, unique? Yep, because you're a reporter. You want to do something, you want to beat out your competitors in the office or across town in another agency. Something new or unusual? Yep. News is new and unusual. Breaking news. Something with human interest. It's colorful, fun, attractive, sensational. They love sensation. Okay. Let me tell you a few other things they need. Okay. And maybe Vrinda, you can type these in the chat so they get in there. Okay. Is that all right, Vrinda? They need spokespersons. Okay. You guys all kind of talked about the kind of news they want. They need more. They need spokespersons. They need articulate spokespersons, especially. Somebody mentioned, but I'll emphasize again, they need facts. They need facts, okay? They want to look good in the eyes of their boss, right? Anybody out there that works in the world that you don't care what your boss thinks about you, okay? They want to get the top story or the front page. You know, if you listen to the radio or watch news or whatever, you know, the first 30 minutes of the program, if it's a 30-minute program, the first 5 minutes, those are like the top stories. They want to be in the top stories. The media, and in general, depending on the radio, of course, it's different, but they need good photographs. Those are some things we may not think about, but it's essential to them. They need facts. They want to look good in front of the boss. They want to get a top story. They want to get the front page. They need good photographs. They need articulate spokespersons. They need all of those things. Whose job is it to provide that for them? Yeah, it's ours. Thank you, Anandi Devidasi. Anandi from Saskatoon. Yeah, it's our job. It's our job. Okay. What can we provide to them? Last question you can put in the chat. What can we provide to them in terms of some of the things we talked about here? What can we provide if we're doing our job or our service right? What can we provide in terms of their needs? Okay, hopefully articulation of our viewpoints, good. Articulate spokesperson, attractive stories, colorful photos, right? We got photos. Sound bites up if we're trained properly, photos, engaging interview. If we're trained, we have facts, win-win relationship. Almost everything we need if we prepare well. Thank you, Radharajan Prabhu. Very true. Facts, pictures, articulate, being a good spokesperson, answer the questions with facts, something that's historically significant. Yeah. I had a person with another religious community told me, like, you Hare Krishnas have it so good. You just walk out on the street, you're a walking story. We're so boring. We just wear coats and ties and regular dresses. You guys are like a happening, you know? We have so much going on. Colorful. Yeah. I mean, our festivals are like amazing festivals. I mean, who else gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and sings and dances? That's like pretty interesting. Who else has parades down, you know, Fifth Avenue with like a chariot that goes up and, I mean, not that other people don't have positive things. They have so many positive things, but look what we've got. It's phenomenal. We are a walking story. Multiculturalism, yeah. See, part of our job is, let's say, let's just do this. I hadn't planned on this. Here's a question. Okay, Vogue magazine. Everybody's probably heard of Vogue magazine. It's a women's fashion magazine, or probably men's fashion magazines. I don't know the name of any of those two. What do we have to say about if it's a fashion reporter, what can you say about fashion? We have nothing to say, or somebody put in the chat. Do we have anything how do we help a fashion reporter find a story? DD outfits handmade. Great one. That's good. What else? Saris. Saris are like some of the most beautiful dresses in the world. Saris got 2 hits. Ancient traditional dress making a comeback. Yes. Timeless beauty. Woo, I love it. Fashion worn to festivals. Yes. Fashion options available for sale. Okay. Pooja Devi must run the store up there. I'm not sure. Turbans. Comfortable. It's comfortable. Yeah, dhotis. Jai Kesher, how are you going to make dhotis interesting for them? You put it up there. Go ahead and unmute. Tell us how you're going to make that interesting for a reporter.
Show them how to properly wear it and how to assemble it.
Okay, that would think if they come to the temple, that definitely might be something that will be interesting in them. Very good. Ethical fashion, fair trade, eco materials, hopefully, you know, supporting the artisans of India. Great. So there's different, according to their needs, interests, and concerns, we can have a story that gets our message across. Okay. If somebody's doing you know, Sunday morning, they want you to be on a TV show or a radio show to talk about Sunday morning. What's it going to be about? Are they going to talk about saris and fashion? What are they going to talk about Sunday morning? Haridas from Schenectady. What are they going to say? Okay, we're flipping our chats here. Sunday morning prayer hour. What do they want to talk about? Okay, cooking, family. What else? Radha Rajan Prabhu, what do you say? Type in something there. Meditation, tradition,
Sunday morning.
meditation, mental health, devotional practices. Yeah, prayer, values, traditions, right? Different audience. Okay, you're invited. So you just did that program. Next weekend, you're invited to be on a radio show at 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. What do you talk about? Prayer? Brenda, what are you going to talk about 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night? What are you talking about? Scandal. Okay, yeah, that's true. They take scandal anytime. Wake up every morning to a party. Yeah, ISKCON New York City. That's it. Party, controversy. Yeah, controversy. We want to avoid attracting attention to too many controversies. Yeah, they love controversies. They want to hear about it's a party. They want to hear about, different issues. The environment, mentioned that a few times, but for younger people, it's a bigger issue than for a lot of people. About partying, about how a real party, Prabhupada said, stay high forever, right? That was the first banner. Oh, that's good. How healthy living leads to good sleeping, right? Why else are they up at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Ramacharya, you got it. Okay. I hadn't thought of that one. Kirtan dance party. Yeah, we have parties. We know how to party. Okay. So the idea is different audiences, different times, different shows. You cater your message to be effective. Okay. Anybody out there got teenagers? Raise your hands if you have teenagers. Okay. I can't see everybody, but probably a few of you, isn't it? Nimai, Nichikishori. Okay. A few. And those of us that don't have teenagers, remember being a teenager. How effective is this when you're communicating to your teenagers? When I was your age, is that very effective? Nope. Ineffective. Because you need, right? They write whole books how to talk to your teenagers so that your teenager will talk to you, right? We need to have a similar thought process when working with the media. And it begins by just knowing the audience, what are their needs, interests, and concerns, preparing our messages according to that. Wait, ISKCON New York City said so condescending. I got to respond. What was that? Open up. I don't know who New York City is. What was condescending? Oh, it sounds condescending to them. Maybe that's what you're saying. Okay. I thought you were saying I was being condescending. I was saying, okay, what did I do wrong? Please help me learn to do better. Yeah. If we're condescending, it doesn't work with anybody. Oh, Haribo Adicha. Yes. So we have time for one question or comment right now. We'll have more time at the end. Nimai, your hand is up. Your hand is down. Okay. Any questions on what we've discussed so far? If there's no questions, then we're going to turn it over to Kumari.
Yeah, you have 10 more
break,
minutes.
right?
You have 10 more minutes if you wanted to do your other break discussion. We were going to talk about this.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Okay.
And
Let's go.
Haribol, I'm
there's
sorry.
one
can I
question
go
in the
back
chat.
Oh, sorry. This is Sonia Chopra from DC area. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
This
I
is
was
not
talking about
Sonia Chopra. This is
Oh,
Supriya Radha.
Supriya
This
Radha.
is Supriya, please.
No, when we were talking about
What
the
an
fashion
offensive thing to
statement.
say to the spirit of Supriya Radha. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, when we were talking about the fashion statement this past weekend, when we had the Sheriff Festival, there was obviously the Lieutenant Governor came in an Indian outfit, but also the fire chief for Montgomery County, Chief Smedley, his wife was dressed up in such a gorgeous Indian outfit. And I asked her, I said, where did you get that from? She says, you guys wear such vibrant colors and such beautiful outfits. I just wanted to dress up, just because I was coming here, I was so excited. We talk about fashion.
I'll tell a related story to that, Sonia. Thank you for Supriya. Thanks for sharing that. Prabhupada said that the gardens in the Washington, D.C. temple should be so beautiful that the senators' wives bring their husbands to see the gardens. So in a similar way, it's really amazing to hear that the fire chief of the county, important person, his wife wants to come to our place because she knows she can get dressed up. That's the kind of reputation. Not that, we're not into materialistic, blah, 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 but just that they feel so comfortable and happy and they know they can come and be themselves and have fun and learn a lot at the Hare Krishna temple. That's really wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Supriya Radha. That was fantastic. Sadashiva, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was basically asking, are there going to be any tips coming around? Like, for example, in the middle of an interview, you notice that your points are not getting effective or they're not landing well. How to recover from that and how to go about it?
Well, one thing is keep in mind the reporter is just the via medium. You may be saying exactly what needs to be said, and maybe they're not getting it. So, it depends. I mean, if it's an hour and a half long interview, well, you need to recalculate and try to think about what's important to them. You're not hitting it home. If it's a typical interview these days, it's 30 seconds or 5 minutes. They're going to cut it down to 30 seconds. You got to stick with your messages because you're really trying to get not only to the reporter, you want to get your message across to the larger audience. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Daya Radhika Devidasi. That Hillsborough just says Hill. I can only see Hill. Hillsborough. Now I see more of it. Okay, great.
Yeah. This is similar to Sadashiva's question, but like in the same way that we're supposed to turn the question so that we can get our point across, what if they're turning our answers into something that it's not?
Oh, give me an example of that.
I guess maybe they ask about the relationship that one has, like they're like, oh, you guys have gurus, like what's that about? And then we might talk about the relationship that one has with a spiritual teacher and spiritual guidance. And then they might say something like, oh, like they're running your lives or you don't have free will. I don't know, like they could.
Yeah, that's great. First of all, let me commend you the way you use the term spiritual teacher, spiritual guides. That's a perfect example of understanding who's the audience out there. Because for a lot of people in North America, if you use terms like spiritual master doesn't go over very well with a lot of people. So spiritual teacher is equally valid for us within the tradition, but you're converting our jargon a little bit to something that has the same meaning, but it's easier for people to understand. So I want to appreciate that you did that. If they misrepresent something, this is a much more rare circumstance, but if they are to do something like that, you can firmly and friendly correct them. Okay? Again, don't take it personal. Don't be defensive. Remember, if it's like a talk show, they're not there, Diaradika, because they wanted to hear you. They're there because it's Joe's show and they love Joe and they like the way Joe goes after everybody. And hopefully you did your research and you know that's where Joe's coming from. But if they turn something around like that, you can just you can say, no, actually, and you restate the positive. Restate the positive. One thing this reminds me, I'll mention here, you do not restate the negative. So let's say they say something like, well, isn't it a fact that spiritual leaders really abuse their followers? You don't want to say spiritual leaders don't abuse their followers. You generally, in rare circumstances, they keep driving, you want to stop and say no. But generally, you want to say a genuine spiritual advisor is beneficial for that. Just like as a therapist, a good therapist, a good parent, a good teacher, a good coach, they are interested in the well-being and the further progress of their people, their student or their client. In the same way, a spiritual teacher, according to our tradition, if they're doing their job, they're actually interested in the long-term benefit of the person that they're overseeing, that they're guiding. So you restate it in a positive way. Okay? If there really is, so you can say, no, actually, that's not our experience. That's not my experience. That's not what our tradition says. We say, and immediately, that's another turning the question. So, you mentioned you're feeding a lot of people. Well, isn't it a fact that you can't get enough protein on a vegetarian diet? No, actually, there's a lot of research that Americans eat too much protein. And a vegetarian diet is extremely healthy. That's why we're feeding 1,000 people a month here in Washington, D.C. You turn it around. Okay. And don't worry about saying the same positive thing more than once. Editors are going to come in and, not to give the example, we all watch politicians and they say the same thing 50 times, which gets a little obnoxious, but there's not a problem repeating ourselves because people are dull-headed. First of all, they're busy. They're listening to the podcast while they're doing 10 other things. And to say things more than once, again, Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna repeats himself. Prabhupada says, well, because something that's true and important, it's valid to repeat it more than once. So you can repeat your messages in interesting ways. Don't sound like a zombie, but you can repeat your positive message more than once in a way that they'll get it. Okay. Kumar, I used up that other time instead of asking the question. I thought it'd be good to see what questions they have. So do you want to jump into your next section now?
We have Nimai here, and I had used his photo because it was the first I found on
Oh
online
yeah, that was an
when I
interesting
Googled
story.
it. We were going to ask the group, have you had any positive or negative experiences with the media? And this is a beautiful example of a negative experience, which was turned positive. If we can put Nimai on the spot to give us a little context, many may not have heard of this at all. Do you see the photo there? It's the boy who came into the Govinda's restaurant in Soho.
Why don't you explain it, and then Nimai can say what happened next.
Okay, sure. So this is a influencer. Many of you may be familiar on social media. They do all kind of crazy things now to get views, as you know, may not know. This person does these things. He was doing similar things in other places, not necessarily religious places, kind of trying to get a stir or a reaction from people. So he came in, he's asking nice questions at first to the staff members at Govinda's who are answering happily, as we are. And then he pulls out a piece of KFC chicken or something and then is like kind of waving it around and eating it, and everyone's getting offended, but not heavily offended. Actually, everyone's reactions were very mild considering the situation. And then obviously it went viral. India, ISKCON India, General India got very offended by this video. And then ISKCON Communications UK, which Nimai Dasi is here, one of our team members, had to deal with the repercussions. Do you want to jump in here? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So yeah, as Kumari mentioned, it was something that actually when it happened, it was actually Rath Yatra weekend. So ISKCON London, ISKCON UK was generally very busy because that's our largest Rath Yatra in the country. Everybody was in Jagannath mode. So it happened on the Friday, but over the weekend during the festival, India really was in uproar about it, and rightly so. I mean, it wasn't very nice. It was a nasty prank to play, and there was a lot of uproar. The uproar then became very sticky in the sense that some of it became racial. A lot of it was offense. A lot of it turned to Hindu phobia. A lot of it became almost anti-Islamic. In fact, even the Muslims waded in saying, if this happened to a halal restaurant, then we'd be really angry. So it almost, there was fuel to make this huge. I have no idea what they were expecting to happen. But ISKCON London actually the temple president put out a release before he just responded to it separately. And then Govinda's also put out a release, a statement soon after saying, listen, and actually what had happened was because ISKCON did not respond in a nasty way to the gentleman, he very soon and very quickly realized that what he had done was highly offensive and was what's the word when you're dealing with religious, you're hurting religious feelings. So he apologized, and it was a very heartfelt apology. And rather than continue to be hurtful and angry, ISKCON decided to accept the apology and publicly accept the apology, forgive him, and invited him back. He hasn't been back, but we did invite him back to come for a meal and maintain good relationships.
Amazing.
Great example of how something that could be seen as really initially very negative and polarizing ended up having a very positive effect.
I mean, we almost changed his life, is what I felt like. I mean, I was, watching all of this unfold. And here's a person who was just really, doing what he did to make his views. And he took it to heart that we were so compassionate, not necessarily forgiving. We didn't say, oh, you didn't do anything. We took it seriously that this is not the way you act. This is not appropriate. We stood our ground, But we also said we understand that you might have, done that, not understanding the bigger context that we're not just a vegetarian restaurant, we're part of a religious tradition that's ancient, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a beautiful example, very recent. This was in the summer that this happened. Yeah.
And the response from ISKCON did actually get picked up by especially by the Indian newspapers. It didn't hit the UK media at any level, including the ethnic press. It just wasn't of interest. It was an influencer messing around, and ISKCON dealt with it. And but it, India did republish what ISKCON had to say. And like you're saying, it did condemn, or it did say, listen, that was a stupid prank. I can't remember the actual words. Those were not the words that were used. But it did condemn the action, but also say, hey, you're welcome back. Come and have some prasadam with us.
Amazing experience. Yeah.
Just to emphasize the point that we have to be careful as representatives of very important tradition. Well, first of all, Lord Chaitanya said we should be humble. I was at a conference recently at Georgetown University, and a Christian Catholic scholar was saying we should all work on humility of our traditions, not just as individuals within it. Like Catholics have a teaching about humility too. So how about our tradition manifests humility? How about like that? So it's so easy. End with this. We live in an era of victims. Everybody wants to be victim, and I'm a worse victim. I'm a bigger victim. I've suffered more than you've suffered, and therefore I'm more angry. I'm more justified. But we're meant to rise above that. So this was an unfortunate kind of a thing. But we saw this. It's not. We don't want to use our communications expertise to add to the polarization of the world. We want to bring down the polarization, because we know ultimately everybody's a devotee of Krishna. Everybody's an illusion, bewildered and forgetful, and we want to create an environment where people can become purified. So thanks for bringing that example up, Kumar. That's really great. And Nima, I thank you. And there's other things that she and her husband, Pradyumna Prabhu, have done in the UK, in Leicester, as really leading the charge of what good communications is a part. If we get time later, we'll talk more about those. Okay, over.
Okay, perfect.
You're muted.
Yeah, here I am. So we have a few minutes before our break, and so we talked a lot about key messages. What I did here was put some down. I wrote these. If I was preparing for an interview, again, you want to write something down, and then you want to rehearse it and make it verbal. Because writing and speaking are different. So the 3 key messages are: who are we? I'll just go through at the top you can see, what do we do? What do we do? Some of the activities, programs, services. And 3, in context of, we talked about the 60th, we said, let's just use that as a scenario. What's happening? What's going on? Why do they care? Why are they visiting? Why are they having an interview with you? So those are 3 key messages. You can always have more, but those are the basics. You have to have it for every interview, written or visual. So one of the ways we could summarize who we are, we're ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We can also say we're a Hare Krishna movement. Some know us that way, but always identify ourselves as ISKCON. We're a global spiritual movement dedicated to sharing the timeless wisdom, is one way to say it, of the Vedas and practice of Bhakti Yoga. So those are ways that I've summarized. If I were to do an interview, that's an easy way that I could share who we are as ISKCON. Sometimes they want to know who you are as well. You might share, I'm a member for this long, etc. So if anyone has any ideas, what are some other points you might put in a key message about who we are? And we'll just put that in the chat. I'll open it up for everyone to see. Just a second. It's hard to navigate these 2. Here we are. Okay. Will we have standard press releases for 60th? Yes, we will. We will send you those. So compassionate towards everyone. Love that. Share universal love. Yeah, if that's comfortable for you. I like universal love. For me, love is I always find it a little wishy-washy for me personally, but I know that's obviously one of our tenets, sharing love, Bhakti Yoga. What role we play in our community. So we'll do that. So you could add that into who we are now, or you could put that in the next point. What do we do? Right? That might be better in key message number 2. What do we do? Society engaged in thinking. Yep. Universal brotherhood. That's nice. Yeah. Global Hindu religious organization, Gaudiya Vaidya. Yep. So this is more definition. In a key message, as Anuttama said, 7 to 10 seconds. Sometimes you might not be able to go into, we say we're Hindu, but what type of Hinduism are we? Now, if you're speaking to a Indian newspaper, you absolutely will put that into your key message. That's crucial information for them. It may not be crucial for your key message to other audiences. Yeah, so always think about your audience. We're inclusive community, simple living, high thinking. Great. So there's amazing, as you see. If anyone's seen some of these that they like, jot them down. These are just ways that you could summarize who we are. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Does that count as jargon? Global Hindu Religious Organization. So that's officially, for example, on our ISKCON Communications website, we say who we are. That's how we tend to write, define ourselves. We say that in maybe press releases. So written versus verbal, you may say different things, again, based on your audience. Any other question? Otherwise, organization.
Just to say, doesn't mean you contradict yourself, but I think what you're saying is if it's a print, you can expand, you got more time.
Exactly. Right? So this is a 5 seconds summary, who we are. Okay, next key message. Is that fair to everyone?
And
what do we do?
All of those are valid depending on your situation and what
exactly.
You're.
So this is my context
question.
of the scenario of a 60th anniversary. Someone's coming for a 60th. That's a real summary I might give. And of course, you can elaborate later. Your key messages, you want to get them out early, and then you can say, as I mentioned, and continue onwards, right? If you have your key messages out, you can build upon them. But if you don't get them out at all, it's very hard to say, by the way, we're ISKCON, right? After the fact. Like, start very strong with your key messages. Okay, what do we do? Again, you can put some ideas in the chat. So this was my summary. We serve society through education, culture, food relief efforts, festivals, opportunities for spiritual growth across thousands of communities worldwide. So I feel comfortable saying that because I didn't give an exact statistics of how many centers and temples we have. We can give that later. I just said thousands, which is absolutely the case. Another option is our mission is to help people reconnect with their spiritual identity and live their purpose, with peace and devotion in their daily lives. Very simple, right? What do we do? That doesn't talk about more of our activities, but it's more of a summary statement. You're putting some things in the chat. 1 second. This thing does not like me to do the chat. Oops. Okay, I'll open the chat if it lets me. There we go. Okay. Educate everyone, harmony, enriching our lives. Vedic scriptures. So we mentioned the Vedas earlier. We can elaborate. Live value-based lives. I love that. Promote conscious living and build spiritual communities. Absolutely. Educate people on the spiritual knowledge that can be applied to make their life successful. Yes. So that's, again, might be a little more of an elaboration if you have 5-10 seconds. Hearing these, is this comfortable for everyone? Does this sound like something you could do? Come up with yourself. Obviously, we can always provide. We're here to provide things. If you have an interview, we can say, hey, I remember with Aditya, she had something lined up. I said, yeah, I can give you some key messages. I just WhatsApped her. So we're here to help. But the idea is for you to start thinking, what's, for your community, your project, your festival, how you develop key messages and what they might sound like. Okay, last one, and then we'll go to break. So what is happening, or what's the activity? Why are they present? Why are they interviewing you? So I said 60th. This is not, the bottom is not the 60th. Marketing is just from the 50th. This is not our logo either. We have a new one coming. Anyway, I will send it to you ASAP, the ISKCON 60th marketing as we get them. So in 2026, ISKCON is celebrating its 60 years since its founding. It's a milestone honoring Srila Prabhupada's vision and the countless devotees who continue his mission of service and spiritual upliftment. Very simple. It doesn't clarify exactly what we're doing because we don't know yet. No, it doesn't clarify what we're doing at this exact event because I didn't specify what the event, but you may say at this event today, we're expecting 10,000 people. We will be doing this, we will be doing that. There'll be a drama, etc., etc. That's one option. Second option. In the past 60 years, our movement has grown and matured. We have more than 800 temples, centers worldwide, hundreds of vegetarian restaurants, dozens of schools, and countless online programs to serve the community and our millions of devotees in the practices of spiritual advancement. There's little typos there. So that's, again, a very generic key message of what is the 60th and why are we celebrating. Again, you might want more, you'll put more specifics on your event or festival. Any ideas of what you might write for a key message here on what is happening? Let's say it's a festival. Let's see. Celebrating legacy. Great. It's a great word. We may use that in our taglines even. Celebrating our services, supporting, educating, and helping promoting live value-based lives. Yep. Again, so he's tagging along on his previous key message for the 60th. So that's key message.
Let me throw one thing
Yep.
in when we're talking about what's happening and what we're doing. Be specific. We're so philosophical, but supporting, educating, helping, promoting lives, whatever. It's like, huh? But if you say, we feed 500 people a week downtown in such and such street, they got it. We promote so many. We have a Rath Yatra Festival down Fifth Avenue, Festival of Giant. Give them something concrete.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to leave us at this because we're going to continue after the break. So it's now 11:35. So we'll come back at 11:50. We'll take a break, run to the bathroom, grab a bite if you have a minute, and we'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Okay?
Not sure what you are referring to, period. What you are referring to. When you ask, am I participating? Am I participating in what?
Anutama Prabhu, you are not muted.
Thank you. Correct, period. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, just a 2-minute heads up. The 2-minute heads up will get started in about 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. So you can make your way back to your desk if you can hear this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a quick question. I just wanted some clarification.
Sure.
If in the key message that communications is sending out to everybody that we're supposed to kind of memorize, get familiar with, is anywhere in this key message saying actually anything about Krishna as God?
Go ahead, Anutama Prabhu.
Okay, I don't know if she was directing that to you or me. Well, first of all, we're not advocating you memorize any messages.
Okay.
What we're saying is that in general, because our movement's so big, it's not like you're the vice president of the bank and we've got like the central message. But wherever you are, your media's got different interests. You know, the talk shows are different from the news people and all that. So they try to understand who's the audience and how you can best represent Krishna to them. Now, if you're on a Sunday morning talk show and you're talking about the nature of God, wow, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Or if you're on a Saturday night program and everybody's talking about partying and you want to say, well, you guys ready to like really have your minds expanded? Our tradition says that God has got the most amazing ongoing party 24/7 that never ends, and it's ever increasingly pleasurable. And that, you know, like, so you would bring in Krishna certainly as appropriate for people can hear, and in a way that it describes the Lord in a way that they can connect with that. So what you're going to say on a Saturday night, you know, you're on Saturday Night Live, is a lot different than if you're doing an interview for the Hindu Times, or if you're doing an interview with the Catholic Inquirer or whatever like that. Is that okay?
I understand. However, I'm thinking that whatever we're selling, however we're presenting Krishna, is not in a way that directly says his name or identifies him as God. And I think that this way, I'm not too comfortable with it because we are selling something that all of the other yoga centers are selling. If we talk about spirituality in general terms, it's something that they can buy at any other yoga center.
Well, I'm not clear when you say selling. We're not selling. What we're talking about here is if you're doing an interview. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. If we're doing an interview as a representative of the ISKCON, depending on the topic, let's say there's an interview and it's the 60th anniversary of ISKCON. So you're going to like fine tune your messages that. If somebody's coming to talk about Janmashtami, hey, it's Krishna's birthday. We understand he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you're doing an interview about, you know, food, you're not going to, I would advise you don't start out by saying, well, the first thing you need to understand is that Krishna's God, he's the Supreme Person, he's blue, he plays the flute, or however we want to describe him. We need to adapt according to the interest of that particular audience and the interest of because it's not, interviews with the media, it's not a Sunday feast lecture, it's not a Bhagavatam class. It's trying to get our message across in a way that people will comprehend that. So according to time, place, and circumstance, that's like our second principle of communications. We communicate according to time, place, and circumstance. So yeah, if you're really inspired to tell people, as we all are in different ways, about Krishna, then just like, for instance, real quick, I went to an event the other night, 2 blocks from the White House, about religious freedom. And when I had a chance to talk to people, I don't emphasize that our understanding of God is this is what God is like because it differentiates from other people. I emphasize the facts, the things that we have in common in our understanding about the need to be free, to worship God, to serve God, to practice our particular faith. Now, when people ask me, tell me more about your tradition, well, we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We are theists. We are personalists. We believe that ultimately God is the supreme enjoyer. We refer to him in our particular language as Krishna. We believe, depending where they're coming from, you can give more details. But it's according to time, place, and circumstance. I'll end with this. Keep in mind, our ability to communicate is only as good as they're willing to open their ears. And you give the example, like if you have a radio station, maybe you get the most powerful radio station on the whole planet and you broadcast so many things, but if nobody turns into your station, your communication is zero. So we have to be aware of what's the time, place, and circumstance, what's the best way to present Krishna, present ISKCON, present Gaudiya Vaishnavism in a way that they will want to hear. Otherwise, we may give a great presentation. It can fall on deaf ears if we're not understanding where are they coming from.
Yes, I think thank you, Prabhu. I think this is a great segue to the next section. Maybe Kumar, you can, and I think it's a continuation of Pooja's question. Kumar, you want to share that next slide that you had? And it's exactly the same thing. Like, this is what we're going to talk about next. So if you're wondering, okay, how will it come naturally to me? Like what Anutama Prabhu is suggesting, right? Keep in mind time, place, and circumstance. Keep in mind who is the one asking the question. Keep in mind who the audience listening to, and what is the context. You know, which magazine is it that's interviewing you? You know, and so all that you have to really be knowledgeable about it. You see, at the same time, you can't like, okay, if it's going to be this kind of magazine, I'm going to memorize these lines. If it's, or we should, as a blanket statement, as a blanket principle, never mention Krishna or never mention the word God. No, it all matters, depends on context. And sometimes even in yoga studio context, you can be saying, yes, bhakti yoga is the highest yoga according to Gita, and that means is a personal divinity, and that name has that divinity has a name, Krishna, most attractive, and so on. So you have to find ways to get the message without pretending that we're atheists or we're impersonalists. We shouldn't do that, but we have to make it a way that they can relate to. And how do we do that? As these 4 principles. So we're just going to get right into it. Is that okay, Pooja? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So sometimes when a reporter's mic comes close, even the most confident devotee suddenly forgets how to talk like a human being. You know, like normally we talk like humans, but all of a sudden we feel we have to be different now that the mic is here. So our goal today is simple, just to stay real, stay kind, and stay informed. So whether it's a TV interview or a podcast or a local newspaper, phone call, if we live these 4 principles, then we'll be able to represent Srila Prabhupada's mission, the ISKCON mission, beautifully. So the principle number 1, be yourself. In other words, don't perform, converse. This is the essence. So people can sense when you're playing spokesperson. See, we don't want to do that. Use a natural tone and use words you'd use in real life. Remember, Krishna consciousness is already beautiful. You don't have to sell it. See, for example, if you love kirtan, right? You say, I find that kirtan gives me peace. Instead of saying, our organization promotes universal harmony through mantra meditation, you can say, I find kirtan gives me peace. Very straightforward. The underlying message sells itself. Speak like a person, not like a press release. You're having a conversation. It's not a formal press release. That's a whole different training section. Right now it's just, media conversations. Second principle, be nice. Sometimes we feel like being a jerk if the environment's like that. But like Anantama Prabhu said earlier, smile. Always smile, even if it's a radio station. Your voice smiles over the phone or over the audio. So smile. Then another thing is assume good intent from the interviewer. We don't have to become defensive unnecessarily. And even when we disagree, if you use a bridge phrase like, that's a thoughtful question. To be like, isn't it true that so much utterance, you're saying the same thing over and over again, would be so harmful to the brain of a developing or a brain of a teenager? You can say that's a thoughtful question instead of being defensive and all worked up about it. Or you can say, I can see why some people might wonder that. Or another way is, here's how we see it from our tradition. That means being nice. So think of these kind of bridge phrases. That's a thoughtful question. I can see why some people might wonder that. So think of your own bridge phrases that come very naturally to you. And here's how we see it from our tradition. You see, the word tradition is very powerful. You hear Anantama Prabhu use it a lot. Because tradition implies depth, time-tested truths, So learn to use that word. Even more than religion. Sometimes religion can be triggering to some people, but tradition generally is not triggering. See? The third principle is be authentic. Like, Pooja, your question was I think really around that. Don't hide your devotion. Don't hide the fact that we're worshiping God. Show it sincerely. See, because people connect to why you care, not just what you know or what you do. You see, that's the essence. If you can convey why it matters, why I care. So authenticity means humility. It's okay to say, I don't know that detail, but I can find out for you. That's so much more authentic than making something up on the fly just because you don't want to show that you didn't know it. It's fine. And that humility is charming. It's very natural. It's normal. That's called being authentic. And then it's nice to share a quick personal anecdote. When I first met devotees, this has happened. Or this philosophy really helped me through a tough time when I was going through my life. Authenticity is like the fragrance of a flower. It spreads naturally when you're genuine. So be authentic. And then the last point here is be knowledgeable in the sense that be simple, clear, and factually right. You don't want to lie or mislead. At the same time, you don't want to be fudging. Know your 3 key messages about ISKCON. We're a spiritual movement based on ancient wisdom, joyful devotion, community service. However you want to phrase that, the 3 key messages, you should have a good sense of them. Know your local facts. How many temples in your state, or how many temples in your city, how many devotees. Don't say you have 10,000 devotees when you have 12 coming, so that sort of thing. Food distribution statistics, if you're doing that. Know, of course you should know Prabhupada's background and things like that. Know your facts. So the more you know and the more clearly you can articulate, you'll just be more confident when you're, someone shoves a mic in your face. Of course, we talked about avoid jargon. Instead of Bhagavata Dharma, say the path of devotion. And sometimes you have to be more clear, like, oh, we're going to have the Aratik ceremony, and then at midnight, but before that, there's going to be the bathing ceremony. Okay, please come. So the guy shows up with a towel. He thinks he's going to take a bath. No, you got to be clear. You got to bathe in the deities. So sometimes it's better to be clear when you're saying this. And if you're unsure, you can say that's a great question. I'll connect you with our communications office for more details, or I'll get back to you on that. So just to close out on this important section here, is that when you're calm, when you're kind, when you're real, and you're informed, you're already a great spokesperson, naturally. Look at Prabhupada. He didn't speak from scripts. Our acharyas didn't speak from teleprompters. They spoke from the heart. So in every media interaction, let's bring that heart. If you're prayerful to the Lord will guide you. And we see that happening. And it comes very naturally as you practice it more. So practice is really, really important. And we are going to do quite a bit of practice now. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Did you want to answer a couple of the questions in the chat?
Oh, okay. I didn't see any question. Okay, let's see. All right, here we go. V. Gopal, how many details were devotees sharing with Srila Prabhupada before his interviews, or was Srila Prabhupada asking for details before some interviews? Senator Kumari mentioned that Mukunda Maharaj is one of his researchers. So Mukunda Maharaj would help Srila Prabhupada with that. Mukunda Maharaj is one of the earliest disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and he was the founding leader of ISKCON Communications Ministry. And he is still giving guidance. In fact, he just texted me today. So it's really nice. But yeah, Srila Prabhupada would keep on top of these things. And Balakrishna Prabhu said Prabhupada was a walking encyclopedia. He would not have needed much briefing, of course, in terms of those things. But sometimes, in terms of numbers and other details, I'm sure the devotees kept him up to date. And he was always keeping in tabs on how many books went out. He was always pleased with that, how many new centers are open. He was always on top of those things. And very proudly say, we opened a center in Montreal. You should please come and visit. It's very personal. And he knew up to
Madana-gopāla also, he was aware of, like you think, a great example when he landed in Chicago and he was talking, it's in Science of Self-Realization, they put a chapter in the book, Crime and What to Do, which was stimulating because Prabhupada saw the headline of Time magazine, Crime and What to Do. So, whether he needed to prep to the extent that we did, probably not. But it just shows that he was aware of what was going on, was able to tie things into contemporary events.
Yeah. That's and you get so many clues when you read Science of Self-Realization and just watch some of his videos, with reporters. It's amazing. And you can see with so much ease, at the same time, his conversational tone, he was always nice, had a beautiful smile, and to the point. Didn't waste too much time, didn't beat around the bush. And the question from there, Radhika from Hillsborough, do media personnel share questions beforehand, or is it all on the spot? Typically not. However, I've also done interviews with certain groups where they've asked me, hey, what should I ask you? This is like a golden opportunity. I've done quite a few of that. Like, hey, I really think we need to let the world know of all the good stuff ISKCON is doing. And you have a 20-minute interview. And you let me know what kind of things you want to talk about, and I'll ask the question accordingly. And I've had that too. But typically, that's not going to happen. Like 99% of the time, that's not going to happen. So don't expect that. Okay. You want to be ready on the spot. And a certain percent of time, they may even try to do what they call gotcha questions, where they try to trap you in there's something about left field. Oh, by the way, you're talking all nice stuff about ISKCON for like 10 minutes, and all of a sudden they'll talk about, oh, you have a really heavy history of child abuse. Do you want to talk about that? So be prepared for those kind of things, depending on who's asking, So that's why I'm saying be knowledgeable. It's very important. Bali Madan Prabhu asks, how will AI shape the next level of communication? This is huge. AI is affecting everything. And AI is so powerful. If a reporter who is not at all prepared and doesn't have time to research, but if a reporter, he or she, wants to just say, hey, what are some very intriguing but also difficult questions I can ask this ISKCON person, and really put them on the spot and make them squirm, AI will actually give them will just, list them right out. So we have to be prepared for the worst of the worst. AI is tough like that. But at the same time, you can also use AI to help you prepare. What are some quotes of Prabhupada on particular points I can prepare in advance? And then it'll tell you, and it'll list the quote, and then you can look up the quote. You can tell it, okay, also give the reference. So AI is a great tool for sparring on your own if you have some time to build up your own confidence. At the same time, if we're prepared that the reporters are also armed with some very heavy weapons now. So yes, it is going to shape the future big time.
Madana-gopāla, just looking at the clock, we may want to move into the...
Yeah. So I think it's time to move into the next section because we're moving right along. Yes. Okay, so now we're going to do the interview exercise. Kumari Kunti is going to help us on the technical side. What we're going to do is that we're going to take a three minutes. Okay, prepare to write something down. Okay, so if you use a pen, use that, or just type on your own. And we're going to prepare for this thing. Okay, media is going to visit your temple for a tour in ISKCON 60th anniversary. You're just coming up. So before the interview, what 3 things would you do to prepare? And what 3 or 4 key messages would you share? So if you can write those, take 3 minutes now. So it's 12:06, actually 12:07 now here in New York. So till 12:10, you have 3 minutes. Then we're going to give you breakout room instruction. We'll pair you up in breakout rooms. Part of the exercise will be one person will play a journalist for a few minutes and the other person spokesperson, and then you'll switch roles. So, Kumari, can you go back to the...
Yeah, I was just showing them again. So we had who we are. Yeah, who we are.
Yeah.
What we do. These are just general ways for you to think about key messages, right? And then the third is like what's happening. So again, it's the 60th. Okay, so 3 things. Just bullet point. Don't write out paragraphs like I did.
Yeah. Right. Who we are, what you do, what we do, and what's happening. Right? What's going on this year. Right. So if you go back, here we go. So this are the 3 things you're gonna. What do you do? Prepare. Write these messages down, and then at around 12:10, in about 3 minutes from now, we will start the breakout rooms. Okay. And it's going to be tight, so keep your intros to minimum. Like you just hurry ball and just dive right into it. If you try to introduce yourself too long, then you run out of time very quickly. Just go straight into the exercise. Okay, then you can, after the exercise is done, then we can introduce ourselves a little bit more. All right. So please start writing those down. We're trying to accomplish a lot in small amount of time. So, Hare Krishna. And for this exercise, if you can turn on your camera, it'll make it that much more personal, especially if you're, if you're going to have a face-to-face TV kind of interview. So, if you need to adjust your makeup or anything, do your hair, You two ladies, you two can also adjust your makeup. Yes. Try to come on the camera if you can. You don't have to, but it'd be nice. Okay, so how this is going to work is when the breakout session comes up, you have to actually elect and click on the thing to choose the breakout. So we'll put you in the rooms, but I think you'll have to click on it if I'm not mistaken.
It's going to be a role play.
It's a role play. It's a role play in the breakout session. So you'll have about 15 minutes to do this exercise. So about 6 or 7 minutes, you'll switch roles.
Yeah,
Something like that. Half the time you'll play the
Madana-gopāla,
journalist.
sorry, but did you give everybody the full 3 minutes? Are they all prepared? Because before you go into the instructions,
Let's see.
I'm watching some people still writing, so they're probably not.
Yeah, maybe we'll give 1 more minute before we dive into it. The 3 minutes are over. Okay.
We might have a problem with people who are not here when we take them to breakout rooms. So let's see.
It's going to be 2 to a room. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah, Rinda is asking if we'll be dropping. Yeah, we'll walk around and drop into rooms.
And we'll give you a halfway point.
Yes. There'll be a pop-up message by text meeting on your screen when we want you to switch roles. So please look out for that as well. Okay. I think we can go into this rooms now, Kumari. It's been like 5 minutes.
Okay, so if you're not ready, don't worry. This is a learning process. We're throwing you in the deep end. Just do your best. I have to stop sharing 1 second. And then what I'm gonna do is, it's like you mentioned, it's going to pop up everyone to do, oh shucks, it's not showing up. 1 more second. Here we are, yep. Include.
You're gonna walk them through a little more what's gonna happen first before you.
Sure. So what we're doing is breakout rooms, as many have done. You're gonna click join. It's just gonna be you two. You're gonna have 6 or 7 minutes to play either role journalist or spokesperson, and then you're gonna switch. We'll give you a time. We'll tell you about 6 minutes in, and then we will, once you finish, we'll debrief. We'll come back together. Yeah. Okay. So rooms. Let's see.
Wait. What about the journal? We had some tips planned to tell them about when they play the role of journalist. It was on the slide, but we didn't talk about it.
Sorry. Okay. Did you see some? I didn't.
Yeah, there were questions.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Sample journalist questions. So you've seen some of the role play we've been doing today. Why are you celebrating the 60th? What does your temple do for society? You can ask some questions. What is that you're wearing on your head? Your markings on your face, or shave your head. Those kind of questions are fair game. Okay, everyone, it's fair game. Okay, excuse me. So sorry, it's just not letting me close the set count.
So just if I can jump in a little bit. So each of you you're gonna be in a room with 2 people. Hopefully, if there's only one, we'll figure that out. You're gonna very quickly decide which of you is the journalist, which of you is the devotee. You're both gonna take both roles, but just decide who's gonna go first. The journalist is going to ask whatever questions you may want to try to get interesting story, the topic being the 60th anniversary. As devotee, you're going to practice all the things we talked about: sitting up straight, smiling, being friendly, not being defensive, getting across your 3 messages. So you're going to practice that. The reporter has more freedom. They can ask anything they want. So they can say, tell us about the 60th anniversary. What are those marks on your forehead? What does your mother think about what you're doing? What's marriage like in Krishna consciousness? How many kids do you have? How come you were sorry today? Whatever they want. They're looking for a story. Okay. Now, of course, any of you that are reporters, you should understand that in a few minutes you'll be switching. So if you're cruel and mean to your partner, they will duly, we believe in karma. They're going to come back and be really heavy on you. So keep that in mind. But so you're going to do both roles. And then Kumari, let us know when we're halfway through and you can switch. Okay. But practice what we talked about, sitting up. This is like practice, right? Sit up straight, smile. and get your 3 message across, try to turn the questions, all those different kind of things. Then we'll come all back together, we'll do a little debriefing, and whichever one of you is left alive, we'll talk about what the experience was like.
Yep. So I'm opening the rooms. If you can join, I see one person doesn't have a room, so just stay with us. And if your partner's not there because they're not actually on this call, just come back to the main and we'll interview you. Yep.
Brother Roman's asking how much time.
Okay, so it's in total 6 to 7 minutes per person. Breaker rooms are open. Go ahead and join. I have a feeling some people are not on the call, so that's why I was saying that happens.
I think what I'll do is we can kind of rove around.
Yeah,
can
you
join
jump
any-
in as well, easy?
Yeah, we can join. So what I'll do maybe is I'll take
The first,
I'll take the second half rooms, and you
okay,
can.
so that's from, let's say, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, from 13 on, okay.
Or maybe maybe I'll take the first half. Let me do that.
Okay, yeah, 1 to.
Sure, I'll do 1 to 6, right? Oh no, we have 17, so I'll do like 1 to 8.
Yeah, do your best. We'll try.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll also jump in.
Hare Krishna.
Hi. So your person did not.
He was there. I think Krishna Vidya does, but didn't speak up.
Oh yeah,
Or,
that
I mean,
I think some people stepped away after the break and didn't come back. It happens, as we know, always
Okay.
in any kind of group. I have one person here in room 24. Let me just check who that is. If that's him, if that's not him, I have Sunny from St. Louis. Let me throw you in there and see if they're there. Yeah, there you go.
Sounds good. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
One-
sorry.
Can
Let
you
me
hear
put
me?
you in that group. Put in a. Why did not let me put you in the room? Sorry, let's try
No,
again.
I was in the room, but then the other party was not able to talk or.
Yeah, I think they're not there. Do you see what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
think they're not present.
Okay.
So that's the problem, right? So I'm just trying to find what room you are in to move you because I can't even find you. So I'll just look up your name. Okay, Nama. There we are. So move to.
I was in 19.
I'm going to move you to 24. There's someone there. Okay. So it should pop up. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And here we have Krishna Vijaya Das and yourself, Lagopal. Let's see if I can put you guys in a room quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Room 19. Oh, okay. So I'm going to move you to 19 and him to 19. Let's see if that works.
Okay.
What? Where? Sorry, I have to look up your name again. Sorry about that. Lagopal. Move to 19. Okay, it should have let you. Did it? You have to add it, yeah? Do you see?
No, I did not get it. Which room number I can join myself?
19.
Okay, I'll go there.
Thanks. Okay. Oh. Hi, Krishna. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Did you not get in a room or did they?
I wasn't there, but I was paired up with Banu. I can't remember the other name. Banu S. But they had the camera off and they were muted.
Oh, they didn't show up. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had a couple people
Okay.
when I repaired them.
Oh,
Oh, there's okay. There's someone. Hey, how are you, Krishna? Are you guys available? We can try. At least one of you can do the exercise now. Can I put you in a room?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna put you in room 21. It takes me 1 second. Sorry. I have to move to 21. Oh, it's not letting me move you to move 21. Why? Okay, do that here. I will just there's no open rooms. That's why. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on. So I'll mute myself. Please jump in. One of you take the interviewer role. Be rough. Do it. You have about 5 minutes.
You're muted, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I am attending this meeting for the first time. Can I take a role of a journalist in this one? If you are being okay to be put on a spot here.
I'm not very good at this, but sure. Okay.
Okay. Let's give it a try. Okay. Why do you have this this thing on your forehead? What does it represent?
So we call this actually tilak, and we put it on.
I think she froze. Raj Malini, I think you're frozen, unfortunately. Okay, you can continue with me and let's see if she has to relog in.
Froze now.
There, oh, there you are. You want to just take your video off? I know it's weird because you're doing an interview, but it may not work otherwise.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's cutting on you. I don't know.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear. We can hear you.
Okay. So as I was saying, we call this tilak, and what we do is we put it on our forehead as well as different places on our body, and we're just inviting, calling God to be with us and to be part of our body, and yeah.
Oh, that's great. Are you, just a question here though, are you a part of any, is it a cult? Is ISKCON a cult?
No, it's actually a global organization. It's very well known across the global, so it's worldwide, and it's spreading actually very. We've actually been about to celebrate our 60th anniversary here coming up next year. So we've actually been an organization for the last 60 years. It's been started, and it just exponentially growing since then.
Beautiful. And I heard about you guys do a lot of food service, and do you, like, what do you do to keep your kitchens clean and tidy?
We actually, yeah, we do. We offer, we call prasadam. We have a Sunday feast where we all get together. We do, we sing and have lectures and discourses and stuff. And then at the end, we do have a Sunday feast where we feed. It could be from as small as 50 people all the way up to like 500 people plus. So we do have industrial sized kitchens where we get the cooking done, and it's very much our practice that neat and tidiness is a very important aspect that we have. So everything needs to be up to par, and cleanliness is very important to us. Not just in the cooking aspect, but just even taking care of our clothing, our bodies, everything. Cleanliness is a very important part.
Beautiful.
So I'm gonna close the, sorry, you both didn't get a full session here just because of all the mess.
Okay.
Close the breakout rooms here and we'll hear from everyone else how they did. Don't worry, it's the first time for many. It's nerve-wracking, honestly. It's
Yeah.
nerve-wracking. Yeah. So they'll be back in a minute. In my experience, I definitely write bullet points and then I try to come back. Oh, I didn't say that. Okay, I have to make sure I try to get that point across in a normal sounding way. So it takes time. Do not worry about it. Welcome back, everyone. We had a session here in the main room because somehow or other the rooms weren't working out. I think many of you got to switch sides, I hope. So you each had an experience of playing the journalist or the spokesperson. Anutama Prabhu looks like he went in a room too, so I don't know where he went. Maybe he was helpful, maybe he wasn't helpful. I don't know. I can't guarantee. I know Madana-gopāla Prabhu was in another room as well with someone who didn't have a partner. Here we are. Okay, looks like everyone is back. Okay, where are our leaders?
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope this was enjoyable and useful. We're going to spend a few minutes to kind of debriefing and just share any thoughts. Kumar, you want to lead the debrief on this?
Yes, okay. You're seeing my screen again? Let's see.
Yeah.
So, did we lose Anusma Prabhu? Did
No, he's
we
here.
lose him?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Okay. So, Anusma, you can jump in here. We were going to, excuse me, this is the wrong slide. We're going to do a debrief. So, this is the most important part, right? The exercise was important, but our learning is more important for next time for, I'm trying to, let me just highlight Anusma, where are you? Can you speak so I can find you?
Yeah, no,
There
I'm
you
here.
are. Okay.
I'm here. I don't know where I'm on your
There
screen.
you are.
Maybe open up to everybody. Just remember
Yep.
our questions. First question? What was easy? We can see everybody and see who wants to respond.
Yeah, so the first point, did everyone deliver their key messages? Did you get any of them done? Why or not, if anyone wants to share. And then in the chat, we can answer, how did it go for you? Okay, we have some people saying, yep, they did. Great. I see 2, 3. How many people who did deliver their messages? Fantastic. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I mean, this is a pretty good group for a first time for many.
Can we ask Sukirti? Sorry, the screen's going on. Sukirti said we tried. What were the challenges there?
I think it was during that moment, though there are not a lot of people, just when you have your microphone in front of you, like when you're against the microphone, I think that's kind of where that coherent message, did it land or not, was like the challenge. I started like, okay, yeah, I was on point, but then started rambling a little bit. So but yeah, so I was not sure if it landed, but Dharmadas Prabhu was like, my interviewer. Hare Krishna, all glories to him. So I hope it landed.
We see in the chat partial, mostly delivered 1. We tried. It was a nice experience. Relatively so, it was great. Okay, so some people looks like they may have practiced this in the past and have done it and were comfortable. Others, I can imagine this was really difficult to remember. Oh yeah, I have to say a key message here, not just answer their question, right? To bring yourself back. Do you want to put some things in the chat about why it was easy, difficult? And then we can open it up and see if anyone wants to share.
I can share if you allow me.
Yep, please do.
Hare Krishna. So myself and Jivan Prabhu, we are there in the breakout room. And actually, I asked a offbeat questions to him, which was not in the sample. I started at the 60th anniversary of ISKCON. Then I just asked, how do you get the money for funds to organize a big event? And then Prabhuji was maybe not prepared for that immediately. And then we, kind of had the answer. And then we understand that, yes, that's not the right answer. Then we decide, and during the discussion, we find out on that kind of question comes, then we say, hey, we'll get back to you, or I'll talk to my team and come back, something like that. But this is how the offbeat questions comes, and journalists can ask all the time, but how we diverted and how we wanted to prepare for that kind of things. So
Fantastic. That's exactly the response. Anutoru?
Sorry, I was answering the chat.
Oh yeah, so he was suggesting that together they found the solution, which is really helpful to have a team as well to bounce things off of. So we definitely recommend. We're also your team, so please bounce ideas off of us and let us know when things come up, because sometimes you don't always have the answers on the spot. But if you're prepared in advance, which we definitely have been suggesting, you may have written down. They may ask a question about this. What should I answer? And you would have gone
One thing,
through.
if I can, Kumari, we didn't put this up on the slide, but this group's getting it, learning quickly. So let's just mention this. Sometimes there may be like a more confrontational interview. Sometimes it's just really friendly. Tell us about the 60th anniversary and it's wonderful and why such pretty clothes and, you know, very happy. I love vegetarian food. And that's most stories are gonna be like that. Sometimes it's gonna be a little bit more confrontational. And in anticipation of any interview, you should write down what you think are maybe like the 5 or 10 most difficult questions they might ask you. You know, what would really cause me to like come to a grinding halt? Like, where's the money coming from? Or didn't you have child abuse in your movement? Or, you know, we heard that the former president was moved from office. Or, you know, what are those tough questions? And figure out what's the appropriate answer ahead of time. And that Kumari is there and Madana-gopāla are there to help as far as, you know, conceptualizing what those should be. Because you don't want to be caught off guard. You know, the basic principle is we're open. We know if there are problems as an organization, we want to deal with those in a proactive way. We haven't always done the best, but when we make mistakes, we want to try to be aware of those and do better. And related to that, we need to be prepared to explain that to the public.
Vikas Ananda Krishna has a question or a hand up.
Sorry. Yes, Prabhu, I just wanted to mention one point. I had Sadashiv Prabhu from California, and we were talking about distribution of vegetarian foods, free vegetarian food. He asked an interesting question that there are people out there of other faiths who have differences in their choice of food, and essentially he was hinting at non-vegetarian food, which I thought was another question that I think we should be prepared for. Because when we talk about food, you know, essentially we're talking about food that brings uh, something that brings harmony, something that basically fills our stomachs to begin with, because those are the people who are in need. So that we start off with that, and then slowly we grow on and address the other parts of the audience of how this food actually fulfills and nourishes us. So that was just one point I wanted to share, that people will talk about why not bring some non-vegetarian food for distribution.
Madana-gopāla, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the thing is, the point here is that we are standing for our values, and we can explain the importance of our values, right? That the distribution exercise is to promote peace and harmony, and so we know those general answers. The idea is to not come across as condescending or disrespectful. We can I understand where this comes from. It has definitely come from a place of even place of compassion. And we take that compassion to the next level, where we extend it to the animals as well. You see, so you take their statement, instead of now becoming an opponent, you agree with them, one part of them, that I understand how this can be seen as a compassionate expansion of menus. You know, we give more flexibility, and it's a great point. However, we extend the compassion even beyond that. You see, so now you're taking, make them sound good, because there's always good in people's heart. It's just that they don't know how to express it, or they don't know how to live the life properly. So find the good, magnify the good, and then show that we're also basically doing the same thing. But from our tradition, this is our line of thinking. So there's you don't create unnecessary confrontation. You know, so find ways to be win-win and be the peacemaker, and it's an opportunity to then inject the greater wisdom of Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Vikas and Prabhu. There's some great questions. Anybody else? Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Kumari.
Yeah, I was just going to read some of the comments that we talked about, what was easy, what was difficult.
Yeah.
So people were sharing, it was difficult to stay away from jargon. Yeah, definitely. Keeping it brief. Oh my goodness. You always want to share everything at one time. That's what the key messages are. You say, okay, I'm going to focus on this point, and if I have time, I could add this, you know, so you could have your key messages, and you have little bullet points of other important things you'd like to share if you have the time. It was easy to talk about, it's easy to talk about who we are, what we're doing, but difficult to coordinate words, body language together, jargon together completely. That's where the practice comes in. Even myself, I was practicing with some of a group and I found myself swiveling in my chair and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, stop swiveling in my chair. So practice is the way forward to coordinate all of those things. I think if you've had these things written down and gone through it a few times, it will be easier. Completely agree. And then the keeping smiling and personal and confident. Great feedback. It was easy. We were behind the screen and we just learned it. It will be difficult when we're in front of the camera and not in practice. Absolutely. So, in general, I mean, there are exceptions. They will get let you know ahead of time that they're going to do an interview with you, right? You're going to want to come to their studio. They'll come to you. The idea of them coming to you on the street and you're not being able to prepare it is less often. It does happen. And in that case and scenario, you may have to be the person. If it's not, you may want to find someone you feel is more confident at that time. That's just the case, the nature of the game. Go ahead, Anutu.
Yeah, just one comment, because it does happen sometimes you haven't really prepared. They just come up on Harinam and stick a microphone in front of you. It's perfectly fine to say, can I have, what media outlet are you?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your main constituency? Who's out there in the audience? And do you mind giving me just 30 seconds to gather my thoughts? And you use those 30 seconds or 15 seconds to think, okay, what are my key messages? What are the 3 things I want to get across? Whether you've got, 2 weeks notice or 1 minute notice, same thing. What are my 3 messages?
Yeah. And if you have a senior, communications person at your temple who should be trained in this, then please send them on, right? That's our role as well. So please use us if we're around. So it's easy sharing my personal experiences. Difficulty was knowing how many details to give about ISKCON, definitely. I learned that I should keep a few main points about ISKCON and to call upon in interviews. Agree. Having some statistics, some understanding. Our communications website, which I'll share in the follow-up email, has a lot of good information there. It would definitely be a go-to point for to review. And just as leaders in ISKCON, it's important to have that kind of information. How do we refer to ourselves with the media? Some of the talking points. We have a lot of that information there as well. Great exercise. The questions were simple, but knowing how much to share and when to stop without repeating was difficult for me. Completely agree. I found I was not prepared. Totally understand. We expected most not to be prepared, so I'm surprised how many felt very comfortable doing this. It was difficult to answer on the spot. What's Hare Krishna without using the word God and energy of God? Completely, you can use those words and terms. The idea of key messages is to start off more broad for a broader audience, right? So you might not go into detail of Krishna is God at that exact moment, but if they ask you a question specifically about, well, who's God to you? You're definitely going to say, well, Krishna is God for us, and explain more details. Yeah, as Anutama said, of course you can use the term God, Krishna, use them in ways people understand. And it may not be the best at the onset to start off with all the details of Krishna. That's not necessarily a key message for every interview. Yeah.
Just real quick, again, understand your audience. Just I remember I married my nephew in Los Angeles, and my sister called me and said, listen, I just want to ask you, just please don't talk about God during the ceremony. It's LA, a lot of atheists, and they'll be really turned off. I said, well, look, I'm a Hare Krishna priest. How am I supposed to not talk about Krishna? She said, well, you can talk about Krishna, just don't talk about God.
Interesting.
The word God can be triggering for some people, so just use
Krishna. You just be sensitive to their needs, interests, and concerns.
Yeah, our title is Krishna consciousness also, right? That's right. It's in our title. So we can use that as a term if that's the audience we feel it is. If you have a heavily atheistic person in front of you, sometimes you can tell. You might say, well, we're Krishna conscious. We may steer away from God if you need to. I learned that preparation is key. Absolutely agree. After a point, when a follow-up question was asked, I asked if we're still role-playing. Yeah, I can imagine people could do some wild things. Brevity is the soul of wit. Great point. Okay, hardest part was not referring to each other, of course, as Prabhu and Mataji. Yeah, Absolutely. We find the funniest thing is when you do an interview, they're going to want your legal name and you want to refer to yourself. They'll need your legal name, you know, and other devotees will need to know that legal name as well if for follow-up reasons. So yeah, always use your legal name. And then you can say, in our tradition, I'm referred to as, for example, there's one, I mean, my name is the same basically, so I don't have that problem usually, but it depends on your context. You might have to start with your legal name. They're going to write it down. Will there be any situation where you need to say no comment? No, never.
Legal, okay, it's technical, but sometimes if you're in the middle of a major legal battle,
sure,
you know, and they ask you what's your strategy, well, you know, that's actually something that I'm not able to talk about in this interview. I think you'd be better off to refer to the questions of the attorney, and then you say this. But what I can say is we're committed to feeding 10,000 people a month. You know, what you go back to your positive messages. But that's the one time that even journalists will also understand that there may be things you can't talk about if it's illegal implications.
Yeah, but that TV trope of like no comment, we don't do that. That's this horrible press relationship.
Even Kamari, although we did catch her stealing the sweets, we're going to talk.
I had to no comment. You're
talk.
allowed to steal sweets, so this wasn't a court of law. You see, I could say no comment. So one element is also manage and control the narrative. Okay, so like we spoke about before, Yadunath, our idea is not necessarily to control it, but to make sure our key points are met. Because as we mentioned, we understand philosophically, we do not have control. So we can do our best, be a good person and somebody that's easy to interview, be personable, and get our key points across. But if it goes sideways, all you can do is try to bring it back. It's not necessarily about control. That's what Anuta was sharing with us. Okay, and do we want to have a few people say a little bit more about what they learned, and then we can wrap up our session today? Anyone want to unmute themselves and share some learning? There was some in the chat already I shared. Okay, Lal-Gopal, go ahead.
Yeah, for me it was full of learning because I was a Madana-gopāla. It was very interesting the way that he asked me a question, and I just missed a one word in his question, that he was asking a beautiful question of how do you differ from other Buddhists, and I missed that other Buddhists. So he's assuming that I am also belongs to the Buddhist group. I didn't realize that question fully. So it was quite interesting. So I think paying attention to the question is very important. You have to hear very clearly what the question is being posted. So it's nice experience.
He had a gotcha for you. I don't think he knew it was a gotcha though. I mean, you would be surprised. Often many media interviewers do not know who we are or anything about us other than they've seen us on the street. Yeah.
Madana-gopāla was playing off a famous interview with Srila Prabhupada.
I told you that, right? Prabhupada asked the same question. That's right.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very interesting.
What was the answer?
Innocent.
Madana-gopāla Prabhu, what was the answer to that?
Prabhupada's answer was very interesting. Prabhupada said, he didn't say, oh, you know, we're not Buddhists, we're Hindus, and among Hindus, we're part of the Gaudiya tradition. He didn't say that. He said, we have nothing to do with Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity. We're simply telling the truth. And if you're truthful, you'll accept it. And he completely destroyed the platform of the reporter, charmed the reporter too, but confused the heck out of him. You know? But that's Prabhupada's charm, is that he made it more universal. Now, we may not always be able to do that. Sometimes we need to also give the clear answer that no, we are a Gaudiya tradition, and that's very important to convey that. Otherwise, then they don't take you that serious. You have to see the context, the mood, and everything. But at the same time, we can say that also universality, that we accept the approach to God from all major religions. There's so many ways to do it. We don't want to cubbyhole ourselves into thinking we're exclusivistic religion where we don't accept other gods and things like that, you know, or other traditions, you know.
One thing, just if I can add, that sometimes devotees really like it when they find like an interview, Prabhupada really chastised somebody, or when Prabhupada's really heavy on something, then it's like, oh, I can follow Prabhupada's footsteps and be heavy. But there's so many other times, like I put in the chat earlier, I saw this picture in Italy just last week. Prabhupada was meeting this like older woman, you can tell from her hair stuff on the back, and he had this like big smile. He was looking up to her like, you know, you would meet some like a school teacher or something. And I'd never seen a photograph capture Prabhupada like that. But the people that really spent time with him talk about he was so charming. And, you know, we should understand that it's not. Also, he said sometimes, like, I can speak like this in terms of being strong. He said, I can speak like this. I'm an old man.
You
right?
cannot. Yeah.
You know, we're not, and we're not the foundatarian. We don't ooze pure love of God and love for every living being. So a lot of times you hear Prabhupada. I heard the other day there was an interview with some scholars, and Prabhupada was saying something like, like, so you're all fools and rascals. Isn't that true, Dr. What was it? One of the first scholars. Anyway, and then the scholar said, yes, Swamiji, yes, Prabhupada, we're all fools and rascals, something like that. But he was so charming, so we call somebody, fools and rascals, and they'll be totally offended by it. So don't try to imitate Prabhupada, follow in his footsteps of being respectful and, learning to do things. As Prabhupada said, we should be expert. He said Vaishnavas means expert, daksha.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yeah, trying to be authentic and real. I mean, I definitely cannot go in an interview and be heavy. That's not my reality at all. So it's important to be honest with yourself and where you are in your spiritual practices as well. Okay. We have some key takeaways. Let me just read those. The do's and don'ts in a media interaction, how to convey 3 key messages, know your audience. Perfect key takeaways. Being a spokesperson is not difficult, but it needs a lot of practice and rehearsal. Absolutely. And I think what Madana-gopāla's slides showed is it's also being a spokesperson is more than just being a good speaker and knowing your key messages, being prepared. It's also being a good devotee. And that's the harder part, of course. And that's the part we're all working on. So we definitely recommend focusing on that aspect of being a spokesperson for ISKCON as well, right?
Kumar, there's been a couple questions asking about, is there generic messages someplace? Is media kit? You want to talk about that and maybe all the resources that are available on the ISKCON?
So I have, never mind. I thought I had them. Shucks. I will send everything via email. I have a bunch of resources available for you, about 4 or 5. All of it is on our website, but I do give it in a link so it's easier for you to find. And again, we are your resources. So you may forget and then just email us or WhatsApp us and we can help find something for you as well, right? Are we putting this on YouTube? Yeah, Madana-gopāla said yes.
Yeah.
So we'll put it on YouTube and share the link.
And media kit, right? Media kit.
Media kit link we've shared several times on this chat, but we'll share via email as well.
Yeah, I'll share everything. A media kit, so that has different talking points in essence and key messages that you can use and rewrite or.
But media kit where with our kid about what is this and what's our food, just explain how.
So that you can use to send to media, of course, and you can use yourself to prepare. And what we usually do, and we will do for the 60th at least, is come up with some marketing information, but also press releases for you that you can send and customize, right? So maybe you won't be doing it, but your temple leaders will say, oh yeah, we're going to do this event, and you can customize them and invite media to attend. And our media kit can be shared with them then, or you can use it yourselves. Nowadays, they're not so interested in a media kit. I find it more useful for our individual devotees to use to prepare. It's just the way the media's changed. Okay, we have another question if you want to.
Satna Shiva, your hand.
Yeah, so I had a question. So is there any place or time for being able to express your opinion in an individual capacity versus as the spokesperson of a particular temple or something? Or particular.
At home with your wife and kids.
Okay, so it's always going to be assumed that you're representing ISKCON when you speak.
Yeah, I mean, this whole session is put together for us as devotees in a leadership role, some capacity of our local community. So when we go out and represent the society, we have to make sure we do so according to, who we're representing. It doesn't mean, with an interview, it's really not, you certainly don't want to say, well, the movement says, Krishna's blue, but my opinion is, Balaram's higher and he's white. And that's not going to help. You do need to kind of take the position that you're representing an organization and you want to represent the organization truthfully and accurately. At the same time, as leaders, if let's just say that, you're a local community person and you know that your backyard is a dump and all the neighbors are complaining, okay? And you're asked to do a media interview and they ask you about, you're going to talk about Krishna conscious commitment. We have 4 vows. We uphold cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity. And they ask us, well, what's going on with your backyard? Well, hello, everybody out there. Get your backyard fixed before you do the interview. You know, so that's why you noticed early on, Kumari asked the question, what are 3 things you need to do before the interview? Doesn't just mean review the material, which is important, plan my 3 points, you know, put yourself in a calm state of mind. You have to also think about what are we doing that maybe isn't living up to our standards. Then how can I go speak on behalf of this organization if we're not living up to our standards? So that's part of the role as the communications people. We all find ourselves in that situation where we're simultaneously representing the organization and using a lot of energy to make sure the organization, whether it's our local temple, whatever, is living up to the high standards and principles that Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya taught. So we have 2 functions, externally and internally.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great point. We always say the first thing you do when you have an interviewer or someone coming is check the bathrooms and make sure they're clean. That level, personally, we've all been in that space where we needed to take care of that before we have someone come visit our temple. So
we do that for our houses, right? We do it for our homes. So why would you not do it for a temple?
Exactly. Having a guest, having you're hosting, it's the same exact idea. Okay, so we have a few more minutes, about 7 minutes left. So our wrap up, reviewing the key points, maybe Nutama Prabhu I don't know if he can do better than this summary here, which I think is perfect. Be yourself, be nice, be authentic, and be knowledgeable, in tune with some of the do's and don'ts, how to convey 3 key messages. And
we're not seeing that on the screen. Is it?
Sorry.
There's something we pasted also in the chat.
Oh, excuse me. It's in the chat. I was reading it
pasted
from
in the chat as well. Just the 4 key points. Also, I think it's a good opportunity for us to share that ISKCON Communications has had for many years a training course. And this training course, now what you see today is like a tiny drop in the larger bucket of the training course. The training course really gets into some of the harder questions and makes you much more competent, much more in-depth. We talk about interfaith communications. We talk about, written communication. We talk about press releases. We talk about media, all kinds of stuff. Today was just about interviews and media, but there's so much more that's involved in communication. So if you're interested, we do have a communications course. Right now, it's an online version in our Bhaktivedanta college, but we're looking to see if we can have an in-person one next year in North America. Maybe Anuttam Prabhu, you want to expand on that point? Kumari, you want to share anything else?
Yeah, so we like to do in-persons. They haven't happened since COVID, basically. Yeah. They generally are smaller, usually 20 people or around that point. Fantastic if you can spare the time. What we're thinking is do a hybrid format, Madana-gopāla's idea. So we do 1 weekend before online and then in person 2 days, so that you could actually just take off those days, a weekend, from work and life and such.
Because it's a 4-day course.
Generally speaking, yeah. And the picture of New Vrindavan, as you see here, is because that's probably where we will end up, because they're our best scenario for hosting devotees and guest house, etc. But we're open to ideas. So we're thinking about that. We haven't planned it. We're going to see here if there's interest, and we'd put that out in the wider North American groups as well. If you want to raise your hand, if that's something you might be interested in, or heart, whatever, just give us a little idea. See if there's a little bit of interest here. Okay, a few people maybe. Okay, yeah. So we think it's a fantastic course for leaders, of course, but also people who do communications at their temples specifically. To be honest, it's a necessity. It's a requirement, really, to be able to be doing that service, so that we feel confident that you have been trained.
Can I put on a personal experience? Okay, I took this course with Anuttam Prabhu maybe 8-9 years or something like that, and it was transformative. I felt that I was able to go out and reach important people. I made friends with the mayor and the other mayor. I got in touch with all the Hindu groups. I encouraged the Hindu groups in our town to come together. And now those Hindu groups, because of the relationships we built based on the principle of this course, we do Rath Yatra together. When we're Rath Yatra, they all come and they send dozens of their volunteers in a formal capacity to help serve our prasadam. But all this happens when you put in these principles. And the mayor, when he had some problem with dealing with someone, he actually called me, because on first name basis, I had nothing to do with that. But after taking the course, I was like, it's not that hard. So it teaches you how to connect with the government, local government people, teaches you how to connect with the other Hindu groups. It teaches you how, and very specifically, it teaches you how to connect with your neighbors. That's a whole different audience, understand the concept of key audiences. So it is transformative. And then people wonder, wow, you're able to get so much done. It's not that hard. Just a few minutes in the right place, right time, and you'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish with the principles of these communications. So please, consider this course. We will try our best to make it take off. If you have enough interest, it will take off. So please consider it. And we will be sending out to all of you who've registered the potential, when we have that coming up next year. Yeah.
Kumar, you got 3 hands up.
Yeah, are those questions or are those interest in our course in person? Go ahead and Madana-gopāla if you have a question.
Yeah, I just have a curious question, Madana-gopāla Prabhu, or any of you can answer. Is this communication, I understand this communication as a spokesman representing our temple and whatever it may be, but does this have any connection to NVC, non-violent communication, into this one also? That's 2 different areas altogether?
Yeah.
We do teach some aspects like active listening, so you become a better listener. The whole nonviolent communication is a much deeper subject that's covered by other devotees in other areas. How to talk to each other as devotees, so you're not being hurtful and things like that. So that is beyond the scope of this particular course. This particular course focuses around key audiences, and that key audience also includes things like our devotees internally. Like, how can you communicate to our devotees? How are you able to effectively reach out to a congregation, and so on and so forth? So many of these principles are covered there. Yes, Anudam Prabhu, please.
Yeah, I just add what you kind of said at the very end there, Lal. The principles that are taught apply in any circumstance. Like, we teach listening skills, we teach public speaking skills in the course. So, those are things that can be helpful when we're trying to build relationships with the media, with the government, with your wife or your husband, with your kids, but we don't go into depth. And I have never studied in detailed nonviolent communications. I know there's a lot of books on the market there, and they may get into certain types of relationships, but the principles are very much in sync.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, there's a dedicated ministry. I believe Rambaru Prabhu and others are doing some important work around that. So definitely recommend it if you're in leadership. Our role is really more external facing. We do a lot of internal, as you mentioned, but we do really focus on external entities and their relationship with ISKCON. Yeah. So another thing to note is I'll get certificates. I took a screenshot of everyone present who made it through the entire course. We appreciate you staying with us all day. I'll get you some certificates. We're just helpful for your records. You can share with your communities. If they ask you, well, what have you done? You say, well, I've done a mini training. There's much more trainings to be done. We have some more that we may do online next year. We're thinking to do 2 every year. We tried to do 2 a year, but Anutama Prabhu and Madana-gopāla Prabhu are very, very busy. So it's hard to get the scheduling. So we'll do hopefully 2 more online and then potentially in person. So we'll see ASAP about that and send all of you. I have everyone's email. And then through the North American channels, RGB, etc., we'll send out some information as well for your temples if that's important. Is there a newsletter a temple can be subscribed to? That's a great idea. We've thought about it in the past to have a nice communications newsletter where we can just put out little tips and tricks and fun things or some important things that we've done. Our newsletter is ISKCON News, really, I'd say. That's our newsletter.
And ISKCON Communications website. We also
the
update
website as well.
So 2 different websites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you mention ISKCON Communications News a little more detail, Kumari? Just at least they know how to connect. I don't know if everybody's reading that regularly or getting on the
ISKCON News?
ISKCON News, yeah.
So ISKCON News is our official global website. It's run by ISKCON Communications. So this team right here and others, we run that website. It costs us a lot of money. We get input from global, there are ISKCONnews.org. We have a global team that's reporting from different places. We take your stories and edit them a bit, clean them up. So please feel free to email the editor. Oh, thank you. ISKCON News is great. Thank you. We've worked many, many years on it, and we're always trying to do better. And we've grown our social media platforms. That's one of our main focuses over the past year. So please find us on social media. That's an easy way to get headlines and read in-depth stories if anything sparks your interest. We also have a newsletter if you're more of a person for it to go to your inbox, which is how I get it in my email, and I read it every Monday. And you can easily share, if anyone's a temple leader here, we have an RSS feed that you can share ISKCON news on your temple website. It's an easy way for community to stay in touch with our global activities. It's a really easy way to know what we're doing. If you're like, well, what does ISKCON do globally? If you're reading ISKCON news, you will see the type of work we're doing globally.
And not just that, not just what you can get from ISKCON news, but what you can give to ISKCON news. That's an important thing that we are asking all of you as ISKCON leaders. Hey, we're looking into this new farming community that is being built up. Can you you can give us a write up about it, or our editor can get in touch with you, and we'll do a story for you. And with photographs and everything. So promote your projects and to show how ISKCON is growing around the world, or something interesting that you did, like you did something for the environment in your temple that was, you did like some kind of something unique that you've done, or even just something, a festival that was way bigger and you got so many people there and there was so many different kinds of stuff. Anything you want to share as newsworthy, please share it. So that's that. And also, if you're very good at writing balanced, say, editorials and opinion pieces, you think about that as well, and that we might consider some of those as well. But we want your content. There's so much going on, and ISKCON News is the way to do it. So please consider sending us your stories.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you can share your story to ISKCON News and share it on your own websites as well. We don't have any problem with that. It's not like you need to only share it with us. Share it with us and then share it from us on your social media pages. Easy way to do it as well. How do you submit a story? editor@iskonnews.org. So it's on our website. If you go there, you'll find an easy way to submit. And yep, there's a link on our website. If I probably find it quickly, but if you go to our website and scroll, you'll find it pretty fast.
And Kamari, just to mention, I put something in the chat, but there was a film that was released on the 60th anniversary of Prabhupada's arrival in Boston about Prabhupada's plan for how the movement is going to work with the collective leadership, how the GBC governs the different agencies. And a lot of times devotees have no clue how's our movement going on outside of my temple and wherever I am. And it's a great 30-minute film. It was done by a professional film director, Krishna Leela Devi Dasi, who's based in Alachua, and it's a good film, and please take a look at it and share it with your communities. It's very informative.
I'll share that.
And entertaining at the same time. And Kamari's featured on there. Kamari's there, maybe some of the other people here. Yeah.
Bhakti Mark Swami's there. There's some nice senior devotees present, and then people like me. So I'll send that via email, the link, because we have it. It's on ISKCON News for about a few weeks now. I think that's it via resources. I didn't share.
Is the course online? It's ISKCON. The Bhaktivedanta College at Radhadesh underwent some management changes a couple years ago, and the family that was in charge of other online courses relocated to be the admin for the RGB of Europe. So Nityanandakari Devidasi is not working at the college right now, so we're trying to find somebody else to put online, because there's a little bit of background stuff that has to be done. But so it's still there, but we need to get it up again. So it's the short answer is it's not offered online right now, but we hope it will begin soon.
Yeah, and we can let you know when it is available, because it's a fantastic way at your own pace. There's assignments. It's like a university level course, but with a newspaper as your professor. That's so nice. So that's all. I have a thank you slide here, but that's all from us today. If there's no other questions, I want to make sure we can leave. We're about 5 minutes over. We were about 5 minutes late today, so we're not.
Can you read that quote, Kamari? That's a great quote, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah. So this is with talking about government as a key audience. Today we're on media, but it's the same principle applies. If you make some of the big government officials interested in our movement, then our strength will increase. Because we're in the material world, sometimes we require that help. Another point is that if a government officer becomes our admirer or member, then many others will follow. So try to make them sympathizers.
In other words, our goal is we're not out there to try to convert the media, convert the government. Listen, that we want people to be sympathizers or to appreciate the contributions that we're making, and hopefully we can work to one degree or other in a cooperative format with the society at large for the ultimate upliftment of everyone.
Fantastic.
So thank you all for joining. Obeisances to all of you.
Yes.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Pranam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Bol.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank you for joining. All of you participating makes it all worthwhile. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna. Take care.